Chapter 885. It wasn't easy for the two Lolas. After Qin Guang fell asleep in the middle of the night, the two of them went back to the headquarters office. Now, the Wen family was looking for Wenwen, and the Guangding headquarters was also looking for Wenwen. However, as the world's #1 Wenzhong expert, if Wenwen insisted on hiding, ordinary methods would not be able to find her. Only by combining the big data of modern technology and thinking of all ways to find traces of her from the nets above snares below all over the country might there be a chance. Although the two Lolas knew that it was impossible to find Wenwen, they still had to put on a show. Apart from that, the two Lolas also cooperated with the Security Bureau to formulate a strategy overnight. They arranged for reliable people to go abroad to protect Qin Guang's family members who were determined not to come back for their trip. Speaking of which, Qin Guang's relatives from his father's generation had really traveled all over Europe in the past month. They couldn't miss a single one of them. However, his cousins and other relatives of the same generation had basically all returned. Young people still had to work, unlike their parents who were either retired or semi-retired. There was no need for Qin Guang to instruct them on these matters. Now, there would naturally be people who would help him think about it. Fortunately, although the poison sect and the dark sect were crazy, they were obviously short of manpower. This sudden attack was because the two big targets were placed together, so they acted rashly. In the end, they suffered a double loss. No matter how powerful the two big tumor sects were, losing 6 Paijin martial artists in a day was enough to hurt them for a while. Without full confidence and planning, it was not worth it to touch the people around Qin Guang at the risk of losing more people and exposing their whereabouts. Apart from that, the two of them also mentioned something else. Later that day, Wenwen's father would be sent here. Wu Qingming and two other sect leaders who were good at medicine would think of a way to save his life. Qin Guang finally understood why Wenwen was so impatient and unable to hold back. Wenwen's father, Wen Jingtian, who was also the previous sect master of the Wen clan, had been poisoned by the poison sect's third uncle, Wen Jingyun. His lifespan was originally only slightly more than a month. Now that time had passed, Wenwen had yet to find poison sect's headquarters, much less obtain the antidote. Although they had used all their means to protect her father's life, as time dragged on, when Jingtian's poison entered his vitals. Not only was he delirious, his breathing was also very weak. He was hanging on by a thread. When Jingtian probably wouldn't be able to last much longer. It was precisely because of the urgency of the situation that Wenwen felt that she would not be able to make much progress by sitting in the Wen family and waiting for her prey. She had attempted to negotiate with the other party a few times, but there was no progress due to the other party's lack of sincerity. Therefore, she decided to disappear on her own, allowing herself to go into the shadows and kill her way into Poison Sect's headquarters before the deadline arrived. That way she might still stand a chance. Qin Guang couldn't help but feel resentful. Why don't you tell me about this? I can think of something. It wasn't his first day knowing her. She had always been like this. She looked casual and easygoing on the surface, but deep down she was more stubborn than anyone else. Once she had made up her mind, it was hard to change her mind. From the beginning to the end, she had never shown him her weak side, nor had she told him about the anxiety in her heart. Now that things couldn't drag on any longer and she no longer had the time or the right to choose, she still didn't choose to seek help from anyone. Instead, she disappeared, intending to rely on her own strength to solve all the problems. Qin Guang was completely speechless. He thought that if Wenwen were to appear before him now, he would definitely press her down on his thighs and spank her buttocks until she begged for mercy. Alright, I'm still no match for her at the moment. But it doesn't matter. Soon. Lioli's ultimate move might be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Qin Guang took out his phone. He had taken the time to call Wenwen last night, but her phone was turned off. He then sent her a WeChat message, but he didn't know if she would turn on her phone and reply to him. This was probably the only way he could contact her at the moment. He opened it and saw that she had actually replied to him. Her words were concise. Don't worry about me. Everything is fine. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Qin Guang sent her another message, but it went unanswered. She said that she would be back in 2 weeks, but only the heavens knew where she was going. Just as the elders of the Wen family were worried, although Wenwen was powerful and seemed to be invincible, she was still a young lady in her 20s. No one in the poison sect or dark sect could compare to her in terms of martial prowess, but as the saying goes, all's fair in war. There was no such thing as absolute in this world. It was just like the battles in ancient times where the enemy was outnumbered. In the Battle of Giant Deer, the overlord Xiang Yu led tens of thousands of troops against the 400,000 Qin army. Everyone thought that Xiang Yu was dead for sure, but in the end he won. The underdog won without a reason, but it was a clean victory. Wen might seem powerful now, but she was alone. She was not an old fox. The enemy might not seem strong, but they had the advantage in numbers. They were sinister and cunning. They had been fighting against the Directorate General of Righteousness and the Wen family for a long time, but they did not give themselves away, nor did they suffer any serious injuries. Coupled with the fact that the 4 people who escaped were immediately killed when he was ambushed, there must be an expert behind the scenes controlling the whole situation. Wen might seem invincible, but she was actually alone. It was hard to guarantee that she wouldn't fall into a trap. After waiting for a few minutes, there was still no reply from Wen. Then there was a light knock on the ward door. Chen Guang went to open the door and saw Wu Qingming standing outside. The Thousand Flowers Valley sect leader stretched her neck and looked inside. Seeing Wu Miaowan and Xen Qin on the bed pretending to be asleep, she secretly heaved a sigh of relief and asked curiously, "Chief Chen, why are you out of bed?" Chen Guang straightened his hospital gown and said, "My injuries recovered relatively quickly. I'm almost healed." "What's the matter, Senior Wu?" Only then did Wu Qingming realize that Chen Guang's injuries were almost healed. She stared at Chen Guang in a daze for a long time. She even couldn't resist grabbing his hand and holding it in front of her eyes to take a closer look. Chen Guang forcefully retracted his hand and coughed twice. "Senior Wu, please behave yourself." So cool. Although Wu Qingming was a little old, it was not an exaggeration to say that she was an auntie. But as the sect leader of a purely female sect, she took good care of herself. Her skin was smooth and glossy. Although she was at least 40 or 50 years old, she looked exceptionally young. "Do I look especially pretentious right now?" Wu Qingming rolled her eyes in annoyance. Just when she was about to scold him like she scolded other juniors, she remembered that this was a dignified Chief Chen. She said embarrassedly, "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just afraid that you've used some kind of technique that you shouldn't have used to stimulate your potential. This will not benefit you in the future, Chief Chen." "Thank you for your concern, Senior Wu. By the way, I forgot to tell you something important. Your classmate, who is also the young master of the Lin family, has woken up. Since you're already awake, do you want to go and take a look?" Chen Guang nodded and quickly walked to the ward next door. When he opened the door, Lin Jingwei was lying flat on the bed. He was holding a phone in his left hand and talking to it. On the other hand, Secretary Chu had rushed here overnight and was currently beside Lin Jingwei's bed. It was obvious that the old man in Yanjin was very concerned about Lin Jingwei's safety. He had immediately sent Secretary Chu to confirm Lin Jingwei's safety. As for Chen Guang, he probably just wanted to know more about Lin Jingwei's condition. However, on second thought, Chen Guang realized that he had 2 cute girls to accompany him. They were 1,000 times better than the middle-aged man, Secretary Chu, who was with Lin Jingwei. "Hey Gaoya, don't worry. My grandpa said that something urgent suddenly came up and asked me to go back." Okay, of course. Don't worry. I'll be back soon. You know the situation at home. I can't do anything about it. It's already against the rules for me to answer your call today. Okay, then I'll hang up first. I'll call you back later." When Lin Jingwei finally hung up, he turned his head slightly and saw Chen Guang standing by the bed. He first gasped and then exclaimed, "What the F***CK? You can get out of bed now?" Chen Guang snorted. Of course. Chen Guang felt much better when he saw that Lin Jingwei was in good spirits. After all, he always felt that he was a burden to Lin Jingwei. "Brother Guang, you've caused me so much trouble. If I didn't come to pick you up, I wouldn't be so unlucky. You have to pay me back. F***CK, although I think so too, don't be so shameless to say it out loud. It's damaging your great image in my heart." However, for some reason after he said that, she didn't feel so guilty. Okay. How do you want me to pay you back? You have to pay at least 1 million or so, right? That's enough. You don't need that much money. Don't worry, I won't let this go. I'll take revenge for you. Chen Guang moved a chair to the side and sat down with his legs crossed. Lin Jingwei said, "From your tone, it sounds like I'm already dead?" No such thing. At this moment, Secretary Chu said, "Xiao Qin, the chief asked me to bring you a message." Okay, go ahead. "The chief said that this isn't your fault. Back then, the chief made the decision to let you attract the attention of those people outside. You also took a risk. Yesterday's incident happened too suddenly. Even we didn't expect it. As a soldier's son, Xiao Lin has the responsibility and obligation to face this kind of thing." Chen Guang knew that the elders didn't want him to feel burdened, so they sent Secretary Chu to comfort him. Okay, I understand. After sitting with Lin Jingwei for a while, Xiao Lin was a little tired and fell asleep. Only then did Qin Guang leave with peace of mind. Although he appeared relatively calm in front of Lin Jingwei, Qin Guang was still angry when he thought of how this guy was almost blown up by the thunder fire on the highway yesterday. Fortunately, Lin Jingwei's injury only looked scary. Otherwise he would have committed a great sin. Around afternoon he left the hospital with Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan and returned to the Guangdong General Office in the city. Although he didn't know how much help he could be from the headquarters, he didn't have the mood to pay attention to other things. These 2 days Lin Jingwei was injured and Wenwen was missing. He was determined. If he didn't take revenge, he wouldn't be a gentleman. The enemy was in the dark while he was in the light for too long. It was disgusting to be in such a passive position. I have to do something. Chapter 886. I don't care what you do. You must find the people from the poison sect and the dark sect. Also, find Wenwen's whereabouts. She sent me a WeChat message earlier. It's this number. Find out where this number is most recently connected to the internet. What era are we in now? We don't have to rely on the naked eye to find people anymore. I don't believe that high-tech methods won't work. Didn't our country just launch a few satellites that can take pictures? I've seen it on TV and the internet. If there's any request, you have to submit a report. If you want me to sign, I'll sign it immediately. If you can borrow it, then borrow it. If you can't, then apply for satellite assistance. Oh right, did you get anyone to take pictures of what happened yesterday and post them on the internet? We have to keep this under control. Alright, I'm relieved that you've made arrangements. Ever since he became the director who never gave out orders and never cared about anything was finally sitting in his empty office and giving out orders like a madman. The entire Guangdong General Headquarters knew that the director was going to take action. Actually, according to the old masters in Beijing, this matter could still be dragged on. There were some things that they wouldn't say to Qin Guang, but everyone had a tacit understanding. They couldn't wait for Wenwen and the poison sect and the dark sect to fight to the bitter end. When that happened, some news would definitely leak out. Qin Guang and his Guangdong General Headquarters, as well as those in power in China, would definitely be able to reap the benefits. Otherwise, the entire Guangdong General Headquarters would have been mobilized the moment Wenwen went missing the day before yesterday. Everyone would be on high alert and go all out to search for clues. Qin Guang understood the logic behind this as well. However, he had his own ideas when it came to actions. At the very least, he was still sitting in this position today. In that case, he couldn't turn a blind eye to Wenwen's matter. Furthermore, he had a bad feeling ever since he saw the photos of the 4 people who died tragically yesterday. Things might not be that simple. Sitting in the office for the whole afternoon, the huge General Directorate of Guangdong was under his command. Of course, Qin Guang was not fooling around. He was sorting out all the information he had and using his brain to think of a solution. Unfortunately, he really did not have much experience as a leader. He felt that he had worked hard to come up with ideas, but in the eyes of the people who actually implemented them, it did not feel that way. However, he was the bureau chief after all, and no one would criticize him if there was nothing important. Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan watched anxiously from the side. They felt that Qin Guang's behavior would damage his reputation in the headquarters, so they gave him meaningful looks several times, but Qin Guang ignored them all. He was really anxious. Finally, at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Xan Qin found a chance to close the door of Qin Guang's office. She came in and said, "I know you're anxious, but it's not good for you to do this. People will gossip." Qin Guang was flipping through the photos on the computer in front of him. "Oh, I got it. Listen to me." Xan Qin was anxious. However, Qin Guang pulled her over and made her stand beside him. He pointed at the computer screen and said, "Help me take a look. Are there any cracks on the skin of this corpse?" Xan Qin was stunned at first. Seeing that he was serious, she squinted her eyes and stared at the screen suspiciously. Why didn't I notice it earlier?" Xan Qin said after looking carefully for a moment. Qin Guang slammed the table and stood up. "Where are these corpses? Bring me to them." Wu Miaowan came in at this time and heard what he said. She teased, "Chrysanthemum Chief, you're also a part-time coroner? Forget it, you don't have to go. The people from the Six Swords sect have already checked. There must be nothing missing." Qin Guang shook his head. "No, these 4 people's deaths are not that simple." Xan Qin did not understand. "What's the inside story? Isn't it just the Dark Clan killing people to keep them quiet?" Qin Guang raised his hand and activated his Mother Earth explosive special ability. A mud ball the size of half a grain of rice condensed on his fingertip. "You see this? My magic can still be used in this world. Although it's a little weak, it proves that there are magic elements in this world. Now, this picture gives me the feeling that the person who killed them might have a similar ability as me. Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan moved closer to him and squinted their eyes at him for a long time. Xan Qin said, "Is this really not the mud you dug out from under your fingernails because you didn't wash your hands for a day?" Wu Miaowan said, Alright, be serious. If I say there is, then there is. Let's go now. However, he was still one step too late. When he finally arrived at the morgue and asked someone to open the 4 alloy drawers, they were already empty. Gone. Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan, who accompanied him here, looked at each other. It seemed that Qin Guang's guess was right. Even after checking the surveillance, they did not find any signs. The bodies of these 4 people seemed to have inexplicably disappeared into thin air. However, Qin Guang frowned and did not say anything. Instead, he walked back and forth around the 4 drawers. Admittedly, he was not a police officer, nor was he a professional criminal investigator. He had no experience in case reasoning, but on this matter no one else had a better say than he did. The reason was simple. In this environment, his Mother Earth explosive special ability was active. Although this feeling was very weak, even as weak as the van der Waals force between a rock on the moon and a ping-pong ball on the ground, it was real. It could even be said to be his sixth sense. If he felt it was so, then it was so. Unfortunately, he really had no way to express it. There was no evidence. Alright, let's go. Qin Guang turned around and left. Hey, wait a minute. Why did you come and go as you please? Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan chased after him. Qin Guang waved his hand. There's a problem. What problem? Wu Miaowan asked. Qin Guang put on a straight face. You won't understand even if I tell you. No matter what, find me Wenwen or the people from Dark Sect or Poison Sect as soon as possible. Xan Qin said, You've said this at least 100 times today. But it's not something you can just say. You have to give them time. There's not much time left. It was rare for Qin Guang to be this anxious. If not for this shocking discovery, perhaps he would still have absolute confidence in Wenwen. But inexplicably, he actually detected a power similar to the earth element from the Dark Sect assassins. This meant that something unexpected had happened. In terms of inner force, Wenwen was invincible. But if the other party really did control a power that did not belong to this world like he did in the punishment realm, then Wenwen did not have the confidence to win. On the way back to the office, Qin Guang kept trying to communicate with Azure in his mind to ask her what was going on. Unfortunately, she really did not move this time. Qin Guang tried to get Lu Ming to help him wake Azure up, but he was scolded badly. That's enough. You'll really die like this, do you know that? I'll let it go in the past, but this time, Sister Azure must not be disturbed in any way. But I feel that the power from the punishment realm has appeared in the real world. And it's not on me. Is there anything scarier than this? Unexpectedly, Lu Ming did not believe him at all. Nonsense, that's impossible. I already know your problem. You always like to exaggerate and make a fuss. Anyway, don't expect me to help you wake Sister Azure up. This time I'm serious. Qin Guang had no choice but to feel even more uneasy. If Lu Ming had said, What are you making a fuss about? Perhaps Qin Guang would not be so worried, but she did not believe him. That meant that this matter was completely out of her expectations. Perhaps Lu Ming did not understand the heavenly Holy Grail and herself as well as Azure, but she was a former God Emperor after all. She was on the same level as Azure, so she had a wide range of knowledge. If she did not believe it, then it proved that this matter had never happened in her long life as a deity. It was already past 8 o'clock when he returned to the Guangdong headquarters office. Almost everyone in the headquarters was busy today and no one had gotten off work. The previous batch of employees who had infiltrated the Qingguang agency also came to help after getting off work. Compared to other martial artists, although these people were far weaker in terms of individual strength, they were once leaders in the military or police. Their military skills were excellent, and now their efficiency in searching for clues was much higher than that of ordinary martial artists. However, all of this was still useless. Even when one's cell phone signal could not be located, and no one knew how she replied to Qin Guang's message. As time passed, Qin Guang saw that there was no change in the situation, and he was not even in the mood to sleep. He paced back and forth in the office anxiously. Seeing that he was like this, Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan could not persuade him, so they had no choice but to accompany him through the night in the headquarters. I really don't think you need to be so worried. Since sect leader Wen has decided to go alone, she must have absolute confidence. She was already stronger than everyone imagined when she appeared in the individual military drill some time ago. Now that so much time has passed, with her rapid improvement in her skills, she might have gained new insights and reached a realm that ordinary people can't understand. Xan Qin's words were tinged with jealousy. Letting out a sigh, Qin Guang patted Su Tao's shoulder and replied, I can't explain it to you, but if you encountered something similar, I would also feel the same way. Alright, go and rest if you're tired. Xan Qin thought to herself, I don't need you to comfort me with such words. You're clearly scaring yourself pointlessly. At this moment, Wu Miaowan suddenly opened the office door and walked in quickly. She whispered, Long Ding Tian from Dragon Gate Express suddenly asked someone to bring a message to the station. Long Ding Tian? What would happen to Chief Long at this time? Qin Guang only remembered this person after thinking for a while. In his impression, this person was an inner force martial artist who did not do proper work and relied on the express delivery business to earn money. It was impossible for him to be of any help. As a Dragon Gate Express that was more involved in society, he had already chosen to rely on the Guangding General Office like the other sects and families. However, Dragon Gate Express was not good at martial arts, and they only relied on them in name. In reality, they could not provide much help. Xan Qin, on the other hand, reacted rather quickly. This afternoon, I saw that you were as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, so I decided to try my best to inform Chairman Long recently. Dragon Gate Express has been doing business all over the country, and I was thinking that he might have discovered something. Chief Long's business is getting bigger and bigger again? It must be because of my endorsement. Alright, little Miao Miao, what was the message he brought? Wu Miaowan closed the door and pulled Qin Guang and Xan Qin together. She whispered, Long Ding Tian said that he might have discovered something, but he needs to cooperate with the military's big data to confirm it. He wants big data? Qin Guang frowned slightly. After hesitating for a while, he decided to agree. At this point, there was nothing more important than finding Wenwen or the movements of the poison sect in the dark sect. With Long Ding Tian and his Dragon Gate Express's strength, it was impossible for them to pose any substantial threat. It was not a big deal to give him a temporary authorization. Get someone from the data analysis department to assist him. If he can really be of great help, then I'll owe him. Qin Guang instructed. Wu Miaowan nodded and left. Xan Qin said, You're taking on everything, but finding Sect Master Wen's movements is the station's business. If Chief Long can help, it will be the public's credit. Why are you making a personal promise? Qin Guang was stunned. He thought to himself that he still hadn't learned how to think like an official. You're right. When Qin Guang returned to his desk, the bored Qin Guang pulled out the Dragon Gate Express's information from the headquarters database. As a force that had fully surrendered, the information reported by Dragon Gate Express was very detailed. He pulled up the database and all the reports were clearly displayed on the monitor. Qin Guang took a glance and was shocked. You don't say. Ever since we were attacked at his place and bombed his house, he became rich. His profits and orders have been soaring for the past few months. Xan Qin nodded. Isn't that so? Do you remember that Golden Flower Granny? That old woman who pretended to be a cleaner. Qin Guang nodded. I remember her. When the Dark Clan was at its peak, Golden Flower Granny was one of the Dark Clan's protectors. She was in charge of the Dark Clan's express delivery business. The Dark Clan has been holed up for the past few months, and their express delivery business has basically stopped. Chief Long and his Dragon Gate Express happened to take over. It's really because of you that he became rich. Qin Guang instantly understood what was going on. As the saying goes, luck and fate. Long Ding Tian was fortunate to have picked up a bargain. He hoped that he could bring some good news. Looking at the dense distribution map of Dragon Gate Express's orders on the screen, Qin Guang thought that he might really be useful. The surprise came 8 hours later. Qin Guang slept for about 3 to 4 hours in the resting room next to the office before he was shaken awake by Wu Miaowan. There's a result. Chief Sorcerer, wake up soon. Qin Guang quickly opened his eyes and sat up straight on the bed. He picked up the list that Wu Miaowan handed to him and looked at it. It was the map that Long Ding Tian had printed out. There were 5 red dots near Ninghai province, and they were probably the suspected locations that he had analyzed. His words were convincing and logical. Qin Guang carefully reviewed the basis of his judgment. The people from the Poison Clan and the Dark Clan were indeed cunning. They had to maintain communication with the people in the outside world who were controlled by poison, but they couldn't easily mobilize their core forces. Therefore, they used a method that was both fake and real, and used Dragon Gate Express to the extreme. Their method of delivery was extremely covert. If it wasn't for the fact that Dragon Gate Express was powerful and had complete data, as well as the comprehensive data provided by the military, including the movement of vehicles and accommodations, and the fact that Qin Guang had sent people to analyze and organize, he wouldn't have been able to discover these traces. After making up his mind, Qin Guang immediately said, "I'll go right away." To avoid alerting the enemy, Qin Guang didn't intend to bring any attendants with him. He wanted to drive alone. As for Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan, the two deputy directors, they had followed him outside for a whole day yesterday. Since the matter had been settled today, he couldn't bring them along. In the end, his plot didn't succeed. There was no other reason than that someone was worried about his safety after what had happened once. As a result, such a situation appeared in the car. The director personally drove, and on the right sat the cold-looking Abbess Xan Yuan, and in the back sat Wu Qingming. "Seniors, you really don't have to worry. I'm just going out for a short while. As long as I'm on guard in the car, no one can do anything to me." Abbess Xan Yuan snorted. "Director, don't say any more. We can't get out of the car." All right. Thank you for your trouble." Qin Guang had no choice but to be the driver for the two of them. He drove straight to the villa area in the suburbs of Wujing, where Long Dingtian was waiting for him. Chapter 887. "Chief Qin, you don't actually have to do this yourself, do you? Just let us do it for you." Halfway through the journey, Wu Qingming, who was sitting in the back, tried to find a topic to talk about. Qin Guang shook his head. "I have nothing to do with the bureau anyway, and I can't help much. This matter is particularly important, and I don't feel at ease leaving it to others." He didn't say it clearly, but he had a feeling that if the group of old men in Yanjing really had any ideas, they would probably stop him from getting any information related to Wenwen. He wasn't a suspicious person, but he had seen many historical allusions about how the cunning rabbit was cooked after it was killed. He wasn't related to the old men in Yanjing. Even if it was because of Jin Shiyue, Jiang Yage, or Lin Jingwei which made them seem to value him, they treated him too well. They didn't hold back and forcefully pushed a young man like him, who had no qualifications or background and was not suitable to be an official, to such an important position. "I'm even a student who hasn't graduated from university yet." They didn't know that he had the heavenly Holy Grail, and they didn't know that he had a talent that even one could only look up to. For him to be able to sit in this position, at least 70% of his relationship with one was at least. There's no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and there's no such thing as love for no reason. Qin Guang didn't believe that the old men in Beijing would entrust him with an important task just because they found him pleasing to the eye, treating him like how they treated Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua. He wasn't related to them and he had only met them a few times. Moreover, don't be fooled by how kind they looked in front of him, and how they looked like kind elders. But don't forget that politicians were the most complicated people in the world. The old men in Yanjing, on the other hand, had slowly climbed to the highest position of power over the past few decades. They were the politicians of the politicians and none of them were easy to deal with. One shouldn't have the intention to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. The destruction of the Special Affairs Bureau was not long ago. The General Directorate of Light was the replacement for the Special Affairs Bureau. Although he was now in charge, they seemed to have unreserved trust in him. But perhaps it was more because they didn't have a more suitable choice at the moment. Letting him sit here was the best compromise under the current circumstances. If they were given the opportunity, they wouldn't mind taking advantage of the situation. In the future, they would think of a way to control the entire Guangdong General Headquarters, and then control all the inner force martial artists in the country. With his original personality, he was not willing to speculate about these things. However, he was no longer the same as before. Although his personality hadn't changed much, he had lived in the Holy Grail, especially in the Sea of Moments for so many years. He had tried his best not to let his mental state be affected by living for too long, but in the end he had still become an old fox, an old monster. It wasn't his fault that he became a human spirit. It was purely a matter of time. There were many things that he didn't want to think about. He wanted to live a more relaxed life. However, if it was really necessary, he just needed to put in a little more effort and he would be able to see through things and survive. This kind of life was too boring. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that the matter with Wenwen hadn't been settled, if it wasn't for the fact that he hadn't gotten his revenge, if it wasn't for the fact that more than 20 families had all been killed because of his sudden decision, Qin Guang didn't like being a bureau chief at all. He had already made up his mind. After settling these matters, he wouldn't be a bureau chief anymore. He would happily be his own internet celebrity, and live a carefree life in the future. Being an internet celebrity, a celebrity setting up a company, earning faith points, earning big money, and doing missions in the Holy Grail in a down-to-earth manner. He would be the master of the Holy Grail, the master of the 3,000 worlds. It would be much more comfortable than being the bureau chief of the General Directorate of Light. That kind of life was the life of a deity. He had money, no responsibilities, and no danger. In the future, the entire Earth, the entire universe, and the 3,000 worlds in the Holy Grail would all be under his control. His journey was the sea of stars. What was a mere bureau chief position in the General Directorate of Light? Just thinking about it made him look forward to it. As for the so-called authority, he had given up the position. No matter who the successor was, they would have to give him some face. More importantly, no matter how strong one looked today, he had the Holy Grail and Lioli's help. Based on the nature of the Holy Grail, it would either not make a move or make a move. When Lioli's grand plan was completed, there was no reason for him to be inferior to one. At that time he would be the real number one in the world, the strongest in history. The position he was sitting in would not affect his position at all. Apart from that, he wouldn't fall out with them. Based on his relationship with Lin Jingwei as well as his relationship with Jin Shiwei and Jiang Yage, he could be considered as one of them. Then he would be able to live longer than the crown prince. If there were no accidents. At the thought of this, Qin Guang recalled his faintly discernible sixth sense in the morgue yesterday. It was also known as a man's intuition, and he felt goosebumps. Was there anything more terrifying than the inexplicable appearance of magical elements in this world? When the car arrived at Long Dingtian's villa, it was already past 10 in the morning. Who are you looking for? The villa district's security guard stopped Qin Guang's car at the entrance with a scrutinizing expression. Qin Guang rolled down the car window. Chief Long of Villa 77. Villa 77? The security guard, who was dressed in a well-ironed uniform, sized up Qin Guang from head to toe. He was obviously a little suspicious. In this villa district, the owners of these few villas had relatively special statuses. They were more powerful and influential than the other owners. For example, Villa 18, 66, 68, and 77. Bro, to be honest, there's nothing to see in this district. Why don't you leave? Qin Guang was stunned. He never thought that he would be asked to leave at the entrance of the district. Young man, I've seen 70 to 80 people like you, and now the grass on their graves is almost 3 feet high. Alright, I'll call someone to pick you up. Another security guard came over. Friend, that's enough. We meet a few people every month who want to drive in to see strange things. You're not the first one. Everyone is curious about the life of the rich, and we understand that. We really won't look down on you. If you really want to find someone, we have a ready-made audio-visual system here. You really don't need to make a call. The security guard who stopped the car earlier looked up and down at Qin Guang's car with contempt. But I really don't think it's necessary. Just based on your Passat, I can tell that you're not a friend of the residents in this district. If you're talking about other owners, it's fine, but Villa 77 is really not something that ordinary people can imagine. Just the day before yesterday they came with 8 cars at once. All of them were Rolls-Royces and Bentleys, and your Passat, TSK. Qin Guang was furious. Are you blind? This is a top-end Phaeton. It's worth almost 2 million. You don't recognize it? He was speechless. This kind of joke actually happened to him. Did I not check the almanac when I went out today? It's embarrassing to say it out loud. Another security guard walked to the back of his car. Were you kidding? You wrote it here yourself. See. Passat. Are you bullying me because I don't know the English alphabet? Qin Guang immediately reacted. Damn, he had forced the 4S shop to change the logo on purpose. Now he was embarrassed. Go. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'll call someone to come out. Qin Guang's body stiffened in embarrassment. The hood emblem was irrefutable evidence, and it would be embarrassing if he spoke any more nonsense. TSK, what kind of trick is this? You really look like a pig with a green onion in your nose. In less than 5 minutes, Long Dingtian, who was in a suit, ran out personally. When he received a call from Qin Guang and heard that he was stopped at the door, Long Dingtian couldn't sit still. He could have asked his subordinates to contact the security to let him pass. Otherwise, he could have just sent someone to pick him up. But in order to show that he valued Qin Guang, he decided to run over personally. He deliberately used his internal energy to make his face look flushed and panting. He rushed up and slapped the 2 security guards. With 2 slaps, 2 bright red blood marks appeared on their faces. Their teeth flew out of their mouths and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Are you blind? Get lost. Long Dingtian didn't expose Qin Guang's identity. After slapping the 2 security guards, he personally led Qin Guang inside. He bowed and said, Mr. Qin, please give me the car key. I'll ask someone to drive the car in. Greetings, Abbas Xian Yuan. Greetings, sect leader Wu. Qin Guang frowned tightly. Compared with the heroic and imposing Long Dingtian in the past, today's Long Dingtian had become a bit too flattering. Although he was now the director, they were all acquaintances because of their previous relationship. He was also the leader of a sect. It was not worthwhile for him to be so servile. In addition, when he slapped the two security guards just now, he was too ruthless. Their eyesight was a bit poor, but they shouldn't have been beaten like this, right? If he wasn't mistaken, when Long Dingtian slapped, there was even internal energy flowing in his palm. If it was another time, Qin Guang might have argued with Long Dingtian about this matter. But today's situation was very urgent and time was tight. He threw the car key to Long Dingtian's entourage and walked inside with him. Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming were already familiar with Long Dingtian. A simple nod to greet him was considered a greeting. The people of Jianghu had their own rules. Although the Thousand Despair sect and the Thousand Flower Valley were not big sects, their status in Jianghu was much higher than Dragon Gate Express. Naturally, the status of the two leaders was also higher. Long Dingtian was a junior in front of the two of them. Nodding to greet them was enough to give them face. The group walked inside. In the end, Qin Guang couldn't help but say, "Boss Long, you hit them a bit too hard just now." Long Dingtian explained, "Boss Qin, you don't know this. These security guards of the property have long been notorious. They say whatever they want to say and whatever they want to say. They don't know what to do. I'm not the only one who doesn't like them. Many owners in this community have a lot of complaints. Today's matter is not a big deal. I'm just giving them a little punishment to teach them a lesson." Just as Qin Guang was about to say something, Abbess Xan Yuan also said in a cold voice, "Boss Qin, there's nothing wrong with Long Dingtian's actions. Those two people were too arrogant just now. If I were to take action, I'm afraid they would be more seriously injured." Okay. Since Abbess Xan Yuan had spoken, Qin Guang really couldn't continue to dwell on this issue. He temporarily put this matter in the bottom of his heart. The few of them went straight to Villa 77 and walked inside. Since the last time the house was blown up, Long Dingtian rebuilt the headquarters of Dragon Gate Express 5 Capital Branch in this villa. This villa occupied a large area. It was a 4-story building with an average area of about 300 square meters on each floor. It was a bit like an office building. The hall on the first floor had been converted into an office. Dozens of computers were placed neatly. There were people coming and going. More than a dozen technical staff of Dragon Gate Express and the data staff that Qin Guang had transferred from the Guangding General Office were whispering to each other. They looked very busy. The staff of the General Office turned around and saw Qin Guang and greeted him. "Hello, boss. Boss Qin." Qin Guang talked to people while looking at the computer screen in the crowd. However, the dense collection and delivery points as well as the delivery routes and other maps made him dizzy. These raw data really had no reference value. "Boss Qin, please go to the conference room on the 4th floor and sit for a while. I'll ask someone to send the report up immediately, and then we can discuss it together." Long Dingtian bowed and asked. Qin Guang waved his hand. "Okay, Boss Long, you don't have to be so polite. I'm too uncomfortable." Okay. I'll try my best. Qin Guangxian and the two elders of the sect went upstairs together. Long Dingtian's face was full of smiles as he looked at the backs of Qin Guang and the other two. When they turned a corner and disappeared into the stairwell, his smile became even wider. Sitting in the office, Qin Guang still felt that something was wrong. He said to Abbess Xn Huan, "That's strange. When I dealt with Boss Long in the past, he wasn't like this." Wu Qingming covered her mouth and laughed. "That's because Boss Qin is no longer the same as before." Qin Guang muttered, "But I don't feel that I'm different." "Forget it. I just feel uncomfortable. It's no big deal." He felt that he had overlooked something very important, but he couldn't think of what it was at the moment. After waiting for a few more minutes, a beautiful female secretary came into the office with a tea tray. She said, "Please have some tea. Boss Long will be here soon." When Qin Guang's group of 3 received the tea, Qin Guang rubbed the crystal cup with his finger and looked at the tea leaves floating in the cup. He fell into deep thoughts. On the other side, Abbess Xn Huan and Wu Qingming picked up the teacup and took 2 sips. "This tea is fragrant and warm without losing its sweetness. It's really a good tea." Abbess Xn Huan sighed. Wu Qingming also nodded. Long Dingtian really knows how to enjoy himself. Qin Guang suddenly looked at the door. Then he lowered his head and asked in a low voice, "Seniors, aren't you worried that there will be goods in the tea?" Unexpectedly, Abbess Xn Huan and Wu Qingming looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Abbess XN Huan didn't smile and was too lazy to explain. Wu Qingming took the initiative to say, "Don't you know Boss Qin? Long Dingtian's Dragon Gate Express has been helping to sell the aphrodisiac pills and other elixirs that our Myriad Flower Valley and Thousand Despair sect made together. The two of us have known Long Dingtian for a long time. Although he isn't very talented in martial arts, he is still a decent person and knows the big picture. There shouldn't be any problems." Abbess XN Huan coughed lightly and said, "Boss Qin, you might have been a little too worried these 2 days." She didn't say it clearly. In fact, she was saying that Qin Guang was too nervous. Wu Qingming said again, "That's right. Besides, who am I? I'm the leader of Myriad Flower Valley. Although I can't say that I'm the best in the world when it comes to medicine, I'm still one of the top experts in the underworld. I don't even need to drink the tea to know if there's anything wrong with it. Try it, Boss Qin. It's rare and good tea. It'll be a pity if it turns cold." Seeing that the two of them were so confident, Qin Guang felt a little more at ease. However, he didn't drink Long Dingtian's tea. Instead, he took out his heavenly holy grail from his bag. "I'm a neat freak. I always bring my cup with me wherever I go. I only drink my own water." Chapter 888. Wu Qingming still wanted to say something, but Abbess XN Yuan said, "Don't try to persuade Director Qin. As the leader of the headquarters, it's not wrong for him to be more careful. For example, in the future he shouldn't secretly travel alone like before. That way we won't have to worry for nothing." "All right." Wu Qingming shrugged and didn't say anything else. After waiting for a few more minutes, Long Dingtian finally brought 2 people upstairs. One of them was a technician from Dragon Gate Express, and the other was a technician that Qin Guang had transferred from the headquarters to assist. "I'm sorry to have kept everyone waiting. Actually, we've already roughly analyzed some results. It's just that we can't make a decision for now. I think Director Qin knows Sect Master Wen Jiawen's style of doing things better, and he's dealt with many people from the Poison Sect and the Dark Sect before. Maybe he can solve some of the mysteries that we couldn't solve before." Qin Guang nodded. "Director Long, let's get straight to the point. Let's hurry." Long Dingtian nodded and pressed the switch. The projector in the conference room immediately lit up, and an enlarged version of the map of China appeared on the big screen in front. "Give Chief Qin a demonstration." Long Dingtian instructed the technician beside him. The technician, who looked exceptionally young, took a step forward and pressed the remote control in his hand. The dot of light moved to the big screen and he dragged the map to zoom and zoom quickly. In the next instant, the simplified version of the map that Qin Guang had seen in the headquarters office appeared in front of him. The densely packed silk lines that represented the express delivery route and the receiving and shipping points quickly appeared. It was much more detailed than what Qin Guang had seen previously. Long Dingtian's conference room was well done. It was filled with a modern sense of technology. Although Qin Guang was dizzy from looking at it, he didn't show it on his face. He looked like he was fully focused and said, "I can't see anything from this, can I?" Long Dingtian first looked at Qin Guang, smiled and said, "Of course, this is only the result of our preliminary analysis. Chief Qin, look at these locations. Over the past few months, the frequency at which Dragon Gate Express receives and delivers goods in the nearby areas has been much higher than before. A few days ago, I already had my suspicions, so I ordered the couriers and the people in charge of the places to check the goods carefully when they receive and deliver the goods. Even though we can't open the boxes to check the goods due to the rules of the trade, we can use modern technology to scan the goods. We'll be able to get a general idea of what's inside." Qin Guang nodded. "That's true. That's how the express delivery industry is. There's actually no secret." Long Dingtian explained, "Of course, we don't usually check our customers' goods. After all, this is the foundation of our Dragon Gate Express. When doing business, reputation is very important. But desperate times call for desperate measures. I'm duty-bound to contribute to the headquarters. It's not a big deal to take some risks." Qin Guang's acting skills burst out as he praised with a smile. "If everyone had the same ability and way of thinking as Boss Long, then I would be much more relaxed. Senior X and Senior Wu, your sects must learn from Boss Long and keep up with the times. Even though martial arts is the foundation of everyone, technology is so advanced now. If you don't keep up with the times, you might be eliminated." Wu Qingming covered her mouth and laughed. "You're right, Chief Qin. I'll teach those disciples in my sect who only know how to cultivate." Qin Guang's acting skills were too good. Wu Qingming thought that he had already let go of the previous grudge. Long Dingtian also became proud. "Thank you for your compliment, Chief Qin. Dragon Gate Express will definitely continue to work hard and reach new heights." Alright, continue. I'm listening. Long Ding Tian cleared his throat and continued his analysis. After about 1.5 months of investigation, we discovered that even though these items seem to be inconspicuous herbs and common rare materials, they're just a few small sects in Ning'ai province. But the original few small families in Ning'ai province really did not need such a large number of medicinal herbs and forging materials. Only one of the 8 major sects would have such a large amount of consumption. Therefore, we concluded that the poison sect and dark sect, which have been hiding due to the headquarters' aggressiveness in the past few months, are probably in Ning'ai province. Qin Guang gave him a thumbs up. That makes sense. However, he thought to himself, how could the poison sect and dark sect, which have always been cautious, be exposed so easily? He really didn't want to face this reality, but he felt that Long Ding Tian was becoming more and more suspicious. The smile on Long Ding Tian's face deepened. Therefore, I ordered my subordinates to strengthen the investigation and search. Every time the goods are received and sent out, I would always chat with the other party. This further confirmed my previous judgment. Since last month, I've checked all the order data in the vicinity of Ning'ai province again and again. Finally, I came up with these 5 suspected locations on the map. Even though sect leader Wen has gone missing, I secretly believe that sect leader Wen's target is the poison sect and dark sect. Even though the Wen family hasn't been able to accurately find the headquarters of the 2 evil sects, it's impossible for them to return empty-handed after such a long investigation. Therefore, it's very likely that sect leader Wen has also gone to Ning'ai province. However, it's a pity that the data is limited. The other party isn't easy to deal with. They definitely understand the concept of what's real and what's fake. The 5 suspected locations that I've analyzed on the surface may not be accurate. Ning'ai province is too big. I originally thought that since this isn't my job, I shouldn't waste my time and energy on it. However, I heard that you were anxious about this matter yesterday. After thinking about it, I finally decided to report it overnight. Please forgive me for my previous selfishness, Chief Qin. Qin Guang smiled and waved his hand. It's all right. Boss Long, you've already done a good job. From yesterday to today, I asked you to access the military Skynet data. What have you gained? Long Ding Tian waved his hand again and looked at the technician from the Guangding headquarters. Thanks to the assistance of the military's data, I've finally gained something. I've found the 6th location in addition to these 5 suspected locations. The technician from Dragon Gate Express pressed a button, and the image on the map rotated. The originally scattered and irregular points and straight lines slowly changed, and a second type of blue dotted line slowly appeared on the map. This is the data that we calculated last night. This blue dotted line represents the possible movement route of the consignee or consignor before or after they came into contact with our courier. Combining all the dotted lines together, I have reason to believe that the people from the poison sect and the dark sect are hiding in this extremely desolate mountain area in Ning'ai province. It's this area that's marked in blue. Long Ding Tian was finally talking about the main event, and he spoke in an excited tone. Qin Guang narrowed his eyes slightly and stared at the screen, trying to analyze something with his brain. Frankly speaking, he didn't really understand the basis of such big data calculations. How did you come up with this result? Qin Guang asked, then turned to look at the technician from the headquarters. The technician had not slept the entire night and had stayed up until now. He looked a little tired, but when he was called out by the director, his face immediately flushed with excitement and pride. Director Qin, this data is the result of our analysis after comparing Dragon Gate Express's previous data with Skynet surveillance over the past few months. From yesterday to tonight, after our headquarters and the military worked overtime, and with the image description provided by Director Long, we've confirmed the movement routes of more than 200 people over the past few days in the surveillance images. Long Ding Tian, who was at the side, said, "Thanks to the cooperation of the military, we were able to get this result. Also, we captured this image in Ningxia province 5 days ago. Director Qin, please take a look." The technician switched the image, and a slightly blurry Skynet photo appeared on the screen. The image was taken from midair, and the Skynet surveillance should have been installed on the electric poles. There was a street corner in the image, and at the bottom of the corner was the back of a woman in white. We're guessing that this might be sect leader Wen, but because the photo is too blurry we can't be sure. Director Qin, you know sect leader Wen better. Do you think this looks like her? Abruptly, Qin Guang stood up from his chair. Although the photo was blurry and he could only see the back of the woman, with Qin Guang's understanding of Wen Wen, he was 100% sure that this was Wen Wen. Their figures were 90% similar, But Chen Guang also knew that Wenwen had a habit of putting her left thumb in her pocket when she walked. The woman's left forearm was slightly bent in the photo, and it was obvious that her thumb was also stuck in her pocket. He couldn't hide his joy. Poison Sect and Dark Sect were in Ninghai, and Wenwen had appeared in Yinxiao province, which was right next to Ninghai. Although he was still suspicious and felt that Long Dingtian's behavior was abnormal, his entire data analysis process was indeed rigorous and meticulous. There were also technicians from the General Directorate of Light involved, so it was unlikely that he could have faked it. Now he even had concrete evidence. Qin Guang thought to himself. Could it be that this was true information? Was he one of them? At this moment his phone suddenly vibrated slightly. Qin Guang used his hand to block the view of others and picked up his phone to look at the message. This was sent by Jiang Yage, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, using a secret communication software. There was only one line of words on it. Your classmate Wenwen might be in Ninghai. Someone is hiding it from you. He kept his phone quietly and fell into deep thought. Qin Guang suddenly realized why he couldn't find any trace of Wenwen even after she replied to his WeChat message. Although her phone was definitely specially made and difficult to crack, there was no reason that the Chinese military couldn't do it with their current technological capabilities. The only explanation for this situation was that someone was secretly obstructing them. It was just as he had guessed, the old men were up to no good. Although he didn't know how Jiang Yage got the information, it was very likely that he got it secretly from Jiang Yuanchao. Jiang Yage wouldn't harm him in this kind of matter. Then this meant that what Long Dingtian said was true. His information was undeniable. I've wronged him. Perhaps Senior Wu was right, I'm a little too sensitive. After thinking about it, he and the Dark Clan's Golden Flower Granny were mortal enemies, and there was no reason for him to betray them. At this moment he finally remembered that he had missed something and praised Long Dingtian. Good. Very good. Boss Long is indeed amazing. This junior is here to thank you. Qin Guang waved his hand and turned to Wu Qingming. I'll have to trouble Senior Wu to help me contact the bureau and immediately dispatch people. We will depart within 3 hours. I will personally communicate with the military and request for assistance. This time we must uproot them. Wu Qingming stood up and replied in a clear voice, okay. After the plan was settled, Qin Guang pretended to leave and mentioned the previous matter unintentionally. Speaking of which, Boss Long, the security guard of your villa area is really arrogant. When I was about to drive in, he told me that a few luxury cars like Bentley or Rolls-Royce came to your villa area a few days ago, and there were quite a few of them. Long Dingtian laughed. I've let Chief Chen see a joke. I'm the one who instructed the people in charge of Dragon Gate Express to come here for a meeting. Now that the Dark Clan is no longer a threat, the express delivery business in the pugilistic world will be under me. As long as Chief Chen returns in triumph, there will be real good days in the future. It's because of Chief Chen's wise leadership that we have the chance to make a name for ourselves. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. All the people in charge of your district drive Bentley. You're too kind. If Chief Chen likes it, I can give you another one. Just treat it as a follow-up to the endorsement contract. Qin Guang grinned. How can I do that? By the way, Boss Long, you're going with us for this operation, right? Your people are more familiar with the situation there. With you around, it'll be easier to arrange a local guide. Long Dingtian hesitated for a moment and immediately said with a bitter face, all right. Since Chief Chen has ordered me, I won't dare to disobey. After that, he waved his hand and said to his subordinates in a heroic manner, bring me my big ringed sword. Today I'll follow Chief Chen to kill them all. Abbess Xn Yuan, who was standing at the side, said faintly, what can you do with your mediocre skills? Your task is to follow Chief Chen all the way. If there's any accident, help him take the sword. On the other side, Wu Qingming had already called the headquarters. She moved closer to Qin Guang and raised her eyebrows. Chief Chen, did I say anything wrong? Long Dingtian will be fine. Qin Guang blushed slightly and nodded silently. Now that he thought about it, Qin Guang felt that he was the one overthinking it. The luxury car incident was a groundless worry, and he was the one being paranoid. There was nothing wrong with the tea of Wu Qingming and Abbess Xn Yuan. The information was also true. Long Dingtian would go with him. At that time there would be a few more masters around him. If he really betrayed them, he would be the first to die. He really had no reason to seek his own death. The time was just right. 3 hours later, hundreds of neatly dressed Jianghu masters with swords and knives appeared at the Yanjing military airport. Although it was a temporary operation, there were already signs before. Most of the martial artists who were mobilized were the heads of the major sects who had already surrendered to the Guangding General Office. Otherwise, they were the elders or cabinet elders who were above the heads. It could be said that they had a strong army and extraordinary strength. Qin Guang stood in front of the crowd, feeling excited. Since the establishment of the Guangding General Office, it was the first time that almost all of them were mobilized. It might also be the last time that all of them were mobilized. Qin Guang wasn't a fool to not use his authority. No matter how arrogant the poison sect and dark sect were, he would still bring along all the experts he could find. In fact, he even pretended that he didn't know that the old man was trying to hide it from him and forcefully asked for the military's help. Although they were reluctant, it was not the time to fall out with me. In the end they agreed. There were also close to 1,000 special forces armed with new types of individual weapons accompanying them. I will use the power of Mount Tai to suppress you. I will use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. I will use all my strength to catch a rabbit. I don't believe that you can overturn the sky. Speaking of which, it was quite good to have power. The feeling of being able to command the Jianghu and control the court was actually quite enjoyable. On the way to the airport for insurance, he even secretly called Jiang Yage to confirm that it was really her message. Although she refused to say where she got the information, he was very sure that the information was correct. Jiang Yage said in the end, "You must be careful. I really don't want to tell you this, but I don't want to keep it in my heart for the rest of my life." So, Qin Guang said with a heroic smile, "Don't worry. I can guarantee that in the past hundreds of years, no one has been able to do what I did today. I brought almost 70% of the masters of the Jianghu with me, and the goal was to take care of 2 small sections. I was like the 6 major sects besieging Guangding. They would have died with just a mouthful of saliva from each of them." He had no choice but to be confident. Since the last individual military exercise, the Special Affairs Bureau was quickly destroyed, and the Wuxia government's strength was unreservedly displayed in front of all the Jianghu people. After all, there were only a few stubborn people. A wise man submits to the circumstances. Qin Guang thought to himself. Now he only hoped that he could lead the team to Ningxia before Wenwen. When she arrived, if she found out that he had settled everything, she would definitely be so touched that she would marry him, right? No, she had already done it twice. Then he could earn another overnight fee, right? Let's go. Chapter 889. When Qin Guang and the others got off the plane at the military airport of Ninghai Province, it was already evening and the sun had set. The 2 deputy directors of the Guangding General Administration came with them this time. Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan knew that Qin Guang was not good at coordinating and arranging things. With so many seniors and masters present, the 2 little girls were here to coordinate with Qin Guang so they did not have to fight. This was also the idea of Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming. They wanted to take this opportunity to let the 2 disciples from the Thousand Despair sect and the Thousand Flower Valley follow Qin Guang and give orders to the others as deputy bureau chief. This would also solidify the status of the 2 little Lolas in the future. It was also because of Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming's foresight and determination that the 2 declining sects, Qinjua sect and Wanhua Valley, had the upper hand in the new situation. The heads of other sects were all envious and jealous. In the conference room of the base, after landing, Qin Guang first gathered some middle-level members of the general administration and some masters who had reached the peak of Pai Jin. There were about 30 people in total. "Director, why don't we rest here for a day and leave tomorrow morning?" After a brief discussion about the current situation, Xan Qin stood up and expressed her opinion. Qin Guang shook his head. "No, we will leave immediately. Although we have done a good job in keeping such a large-scale operation confidential, there is still a risk of leakage. Since we are here, of course we have to catch them off guard with a thunderous force. But most of the advanced equipment has not arrived yet. They are still behind with the second batch of soldiers." Xan Qin was a little worried. Qin Guang first smiled, then looked at the other Jianghu masters and said, "Although those individual weapons are very powerful, we have a lot of masters here. Without the other 700 people and those weapons, we don't even dare to go out." Xan Qin still wanted to say something, but Abbess Xan Yuan next to her coughed lightly. She immediately understood what her master meant and sat back unhappily. Long Dingtian looked around and said, "Director Qin, don't worry. It is not so easy to transfer people on such a large scale. There are at least thousands of people in Poison Sect and Dark Sect. Now that we are here, the more anxious they are, the easier it is for them to give themselves away. Deputy Director Xian's worries are not wrong. It's better to be safe than sorry." Qin Guang waves his hand. "Boss Long, you don't have to say any more, we'll set off immediately. We are going to eat supper by Ninghai Lake tonight. 20 minutes later, the mighty motorcade drove straight to Ninghai Lake. The map showed that the most likely hiding place of the two evil sects was in the deep forest about 10 kilometers west of Ninghai Lake. Qin Guang firmly believed that if there was no mole, they would still be in the dark. Even if there was a mole, with the efficiency of his swift and decisive actions, they wouldn't have the time and space to move. There are advantages and disadvantages for those people to hide in the remote mountains. The advantage was that it wouldn't be easy to get caught, but the disadvantage was that once his whereabouts were exposed, he would immediately be targeted by missiles. Modern military technology allowed humans to possess increasingly powerful weapons of war. An inner force martial artist's individual combat ability far exceeded that of an ordinary soldier. Once they were allowed to infiltrate a city, the damage they could cause was extremely terrifying. One of them could even match up to a special force. However, once they were in the wilderness, there were no civilians around them, and the Wuxia military had nothing to fear. If they were unhappy, they would be served with missiles and bombed by the Air Force. This was also why all the major sects in the past treated the location of their headquarters as their top secret. Reporting the location of their headquarters with the current level of technology was like placing the softest abdomen of a hedgehog outside. They were the meat on the chopping block. Either they didn't surrender, or once they did, it was equivalent to giving up on themselves. In the past, the Special Affairs Bureau would never do such things, nor did they have the guts to do so. However, the current Guangdong General Administration was much more powerful than the Special Affairs Bureau of the past. The old men in Yanjin were also much more determined, and the level of military technology was no longer what it used to be. Once hit by modern military power such as missiles or bombing, even the most powerful Iron Shirt and Golden Bell Shield would not survive for more than a few seconds. At this moment, although there were some grudges between Qin Guang and the old men in Yanjin, under the insistence of Jiang Yuanchao and Shui Zhan, Qin Guang still received unconditional support, and he had the assistance of long-range firepower. Today, Qin Guang seemed to be headstrong and did not listen to anyone's opinion. On one hand, he was really worried about Wenwen's safety, and he was afraid that she would get ahead of him. On the other hand, he really did not think that with their current strength, they would be afraid of the two evil sections. Ninghai Province was not comparable to Dachuan Province. Its economic level was not developed, and the level of road construction was far inferior to Dachuan Province. They bumped along the winding mountain road all the way. When they arrived at Ninghai Lake, the largest saltwater lake in Wuxia, it was already about 6 hours later. The second batch of more than 700 follow-up troops and individual weapons were still behind them. They were followed closely by more than 50 large trucks. They were about 5 hours later than the first batch. Chief Qin, there is no road ahead and we can only proceed on foot. Why don't we set up camp here first? After the motorcade stopped, Long Ding Tian and the person in charge of his Dragon Gate Express in Ninghai Province came over to greet them. Wu Qingming also came over to persuade them. That's right. Actually, everyone is a little tired. Although we are all masters here, after a little rest, the people behind will also be able to catch up and join us tomorrow morning. At that time we can set off again so that we won't be taken advantage of by others, right? Sect leader Wu is right. Chief Qin, you are too unreasonable. We are all sect leaders of our own sections. We ran out of our own homes, accompanied you from Yanjin to Ninghai, and then rushed to this lake without stopping. We didn't even have time to wash our faces. It's a little too embarrassing. The person who said this was a handsome Taoist priest in a white robe. He looked like he was only in his 20s, but his real age was said to be over 60. He was the current sect leader of Plainclothes Sect, one of the 8 sections. He had a very high status in Jianghu, and his martial arts were even more unfathomable. In fact, many people wanted to say this, but they couldn't say it because of Qin Guang's face and their own status in Jianghu. In terms of strength and status in Jianghu, the sect leader of Plainclothes Sect, Taoist priest Song Song, could be said to be second only to the sect leaders of the 3 aristocratic families, such as the Wen family. It was just right for him to say this. Qin Guang understood that these people seemed to have defected to the Guangdong General Office, but after all, they were different from real soldiers. It was impossible for them to completely listen to him. They weren't so obedient. If they didn't have a bit of arrogance, they wouldn't have been able to overcome obstacles and reach this level on martial arts. He couldn't be too excessive, and he always had to consider the feelings of these unruly thugs. Well, Senior Song Song of Plainclothes Sect is right. From the afternoon when we set off from Yanjin until now, we have been rushing for almost 10 hours without a good rest. Then we will set up camp here and enter the mountain early tomorrow morning. Under Qin Guang's order, Everyone was relieved. With their power they wouldn't be really tired, but being ordered around like this, they couldn't catch their breath and felt suffocated. Taoist Song Song saw that his words were effective, his face rose and his heart felt good. But he was also afraid that Qin Guang would hold a grudge, so he came up and said, "Chief Qin, we Jianghu people are not people who are afraid of death, afraid of hardship and tiredness. But Poison Sect and Dark Sect, these two evil sects have been in Jianghu for a long time. 10 years ago they were also very powerful, and could be said to be the top 2 sects among the 8 big sects, second only to the 3 big aristocratic families. It's hard to guarantee that they don't have any trump cards. I thought that there will be a big battle, so I thought that it's better for us to maintain our peak condition so that when we face the enemy, there won't be any accidents." Qin Guang nodded. "Senior Song Song is right, it was Junior who didn't think it through. If you give me face, I'll also give you face. Then things will be easy to deal with." Of course, they wouldn't let the masters of the big sects set up the military tents, but the other 200 military elites who accompanied them. Modern military tents were much more convenient to use than ancient ones. About 10 minutes later, densely packed tents were set up by Ninghai Lake, arranged in a row along the shore of the lake. Qin Guang took Long Dingtian, Xan Qin, Wu Miaowan, Xuelin, and Chu Hanji with him to study the map in his tent. Wu Miaowan fiddled with the map and asked, "From here into the mountain, there are dense forests and gravel all the way. It's convenient for us martial artists, but those soldiers, their individual weapons weigh dozens of kilograms. Won't such a long-distance movement consume too much energy?" Xuelin shook her head and said, "No, those who come here are the elites of the army. They can carry dozens of kilograms of weight for a whole day, so it's not a problem for them to walk in the mountains and forests for a dozen kilometers." Qin Guang pointed to the map and asked, "The map shows that there is a valley here and it goes all the way inside. Can we go in directly from here?" The guide that Long Dingtian found shook his head. "No, this valley is extremely humid and full of poisonous miasma. If it's an inner-strength martial artist they can barely pass through, but they may not be unscathed, but it's difficult for those soldiers." Letting out a sigh, Qin Guang continued, "Damn it. It's a pity that we can't figure out their exact location. Otherwise we could have gotten a bunch of missiles from those old men and blow them up." Xuelin shook her head and denied, "Director Qin, your idea is not very practical. We ordinary people know how to build air raid shelters when marching to war. According to the previous intelligence, the 2 Jianghu sects have been hiding here for a long time, and they may have dug dozens of meters underground. If they hide and don't come out, even a blanket missile attack may not be able to destroy them. Damn, it feels like these 2 are so professional." Qin Guang was a little speechless. Among the people present he was the most senior official, but in fact he seemed to know nothing. He was a literal, ignorant and incompetent military supervisor. At this moment, there was a sudden noise from the communication device. "We found the enemy. Ah, Dai Quan, you lost to me again this time." The person who spoke was the leader of the Six-Sword sect, Zhuge Ling, who was in charge of patrolling and guarding. He sounded a little excited. After everyone set up camp, the Xinxing clan and the Six-Sword sect each took on half of the security duties. This time the 2 sects each sent close to 10 people. Obviously, the treatment of the Thousand Despair sect and the Thousand Flower Valley made many people think. The Xinxing clan and the Six-Sword sect, who had failed in their pursuit of the 4 fugitives and only found 4 corpses, seemed to be holding back their anger and wanted to prove themselves again. Compared to the other sects, these 2 mid-tier sects, which were one of the 27 sects, were much more diligent. They were not as strong as the Plainclothes clan or the Fist clan, nor were they willing to hand over their sex techniques without reservation. They also did not have lolas like Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan who surrounded the director from the beginning. However, they wanted to catch up in the new situation and be valued, so of course they had to work harder. "Let's go take a look." Qin Guang hurriedly rushed out with his men. When they arrived at the place, the 10 experts of the Six-Sword sect were all standing proudly with their swords on their backs. Dai Quan of the Xinxing clan, who was not far away, stared at Zhuge Ling with a red face and neck. "You damn Zhuge, why didn't you leave one for me?" Zhuge Ling had a smug look on his face. "Just a few spies in the early stage of skin strength. They are not worth mentioning. I just had to move my fingers and they would be gone. I did not stop for a moment. Sorry, brother Dai." Qin Guang walked closer and saw more than 10 corpses lying on the ground. All of them were dressed in black robes, hiding their heads and tails. "Aren't there more than 10 people here?" Zhuge Ling cupped his hands at Qin Guang. Reporting to the director, these 10 people should be spies from the Poison clan. They are good at using poison, but the elders of the Six-Sword sect struck first. There are 5 skin strength martial artists, and the rest are just bone strength dregs. They are not worth mentioning. Qin Guang's mouth twitched. Be reasonable. If the director in front of you is a chicken with muscle strength and skin strength is dregs, then what am I? Director, I'm not talking about you. Zhuge Ling immediately reacted and explained. Qin Guang smiled helplessly. All right. The more you say, the more embarrassed I am. He did not expect that the other party would dare to strike first and send out spies. Dai Quan, who was at the side, came forward. He first glared at Zhuge Ling and then said, Director, our whereabouts may have been exposed. How about I lead the masters of my Xinxing clan to investigate first, lest they abscond overnight? Qin Guang thought about it and was a little hesitant. Dai Quan said again, Director, you don't have to worry. Although the people of the Xinxing clan may not be ranked in the Jianghu when it comes to fighting head-on, our ability to pursue and escape is top-notch. Even the people from the 8 major sects, the Poison Clan and the Dark Clan, can't keep us here. All right, thank you, Senior Dai. Qin Guang finally agreed to Dai Quan's suggestion. Dai Quan raised his eyebrows at Zhuge Ling proudly. He turned around and disappeared into the darkness with the people of the Xinxing clan. After a few ups and downs, these people stepped on the shrubbery and flew forward. However, they did not make the slightest sound. He was not bragging. The Qinggong of the Xinxing clan could be said to be the best in the Jianghu. It was much better than Xan Qin, who was also good at movement. Chapter 890. As soon as the people from Xinxing clan left, the task of guarding fell on the Six-Sword sect. Senior Zhuge, do you want to find a few more people to help you? Qin Guang asked casually. Zhuge Ling waved his hand generously. Chief Qin, don't look down on me. Our Six-Sword sect used to be a sharp blade under the emperor. 10 people from our sect are enough to handle such a small matter. Moreover, we have many masters here. Even if the 2 evil sects send more spies, they will only be small fries. They won't dare to invade us. After a brief pondering, Qin Guang felt that it made sense. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Zhuge. Chief Qin, you are too polite. After returning to the tent, Qin Guang thought that it would be dawn the next day before the reinforcements arrived. It would be a waste of time to keep the others here. Therefore he asked the others to rest while he sat in the tent and played with his phone. He couldn't sleep. He didn't know if he was excited, nervous, or looking forward to something. He shouldn't care about the internal force martial artists. Maybe with his personality, if he hadn't been involved, he would have turned a blind eye to it. For example, if Wenwen's sudden disappearance didn't make him so anxious, he wouldn't have been so impatient. He would have taken his time to plan. In a sense, he was indeed a selfish person. He rolled around in the sleeping bag, but there was no cute girl to warm his bed. Xan Qin was dragged away by her master, and Wu Miaowan, the vixen, couldn't be counted on. At about 3:30 in the morning he got out of the sleeping bag, walked out of the tent alone, and went to the lake in Ninghai. The autumn wind in September carried a faint fishy smell unique to the saltwater lake. It blew gently from the surface of Ninghai and blew on Qin Guang's face. The cold moonlight danced wildly on the sparkling surface of the lake. The mottled glow was like a mischievous fairy. The sound of water came from the other side of the endless saltwater lake. It passed through Qin Guang's eardrums and flew to the mountain behind him. The sky was clear and cloudless, and the stars were twinkling. This was a scenery that could not be seen in the city. Qin Guang simply lay down and pressed his back against the warm or cool beach. He put his hands behind his head and looked at the stars in the sky. He didn't know which one was the real star and which one was the eye he borrowed from the old men in Beijing. Qin Guang knew that he might have to kill a lot of people this time. If he had a choice, he didn't want to kill. But now the wicked would be tortured by the wicked. Someone had to stand up and clean up the malignant tumors of the Jianghu that the secular power and power could not punish. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, the person sitting in this position was him. Worst comes to worst, I won't treat them as real people. I'll just treat them as NPCs in my world of cups. Just like in the second punishment realm, he had single-handedly slaughtered the entire world-shattering holy tribe, which was the group of assassins from the world-shattering organization. Wait, I can't think like that. Back then, when I was pulled into the punishment realm, it was either them or me who died. I had no choice. Also, almost everyone in the world-shattering organization had a path to death. Me killing all the world-shattering members was to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and to protect myself. This time I'm taking the initiative to attack. My motive from the beginning was to kill. The Poison Sect and the Dark Sect were indeed evil sects that committed all kinds of crimes. They were unreasonable and had no regard for human life. They were stubborn and put up a stubborn resistance. It was obvious that they had lost the upper hand, but they were still so stubborn. They must be plotting something. It couldn't be anything good. But no matter how many reasons he came up with, he was here to kill. Did I bring the Holy Grail into the gutter after all? Although I always say that I'm still a mortal, my way of thinking is gradually moving towards the direction of an inner force martial artist? No, I might have gone to the extreme. Be it in the world of cups or in the real world, many people had died in my hands or in front of me without me realizing it. This was an experience that any ordinary person could never imagine in their entire life. I'm thinking like a god. Qin Guang shook his head. He didn't know what was wrong with him recently. These days there were always a lot of thoughts in his head. They were strange and meaningless. He thought that maybe it was because the matter of becoming an inner force martial artist hadn't been resolved yet. Although he said that he didn't care, he was still too depressed in his heart. Maybe I'll feel better after I resolve this matter? He still stared blankly at the sky. His mind was blank. Vaguely, he unconsciously saw the countless threads of faith that were flying towards him from the void. He even felt that he might have seen the omnipresent power of the Holy Grail. Speaking of which, what exactly happened to the 4 missing corpses? This matter was still bothering him. Forget it. Since he couldn't figure it out, he might as well borrow a phrase that Luli often said. Either he prayed for his own luck, or there would always be a way out. When he killed his way to the 2 evil sects, these problems would naturally be solved. At this moment, a series of hurried footsteps came from behind him. Qin Guang sat up straight and turned around. He saw Zhuge Ling, the head of the Six-Sword sect, jogging towards him. "Senior Zhuge, what's the matter?" Qin Guang stood up and asked. Zhuge Ling looked around and took out a sealed plastic bag from his pocket. There was a piece of cloth in it. "Chief Qin, I found this on a tree when I was patrolling." Zhuge Ling handed the plastic bag over as he spoke. Qin Guang took the bag and his pupils contracted. This piece of cloth was made of silk. Its original color should have been pure white, but it was now stained with blood. The blood had been there for 2 to 3 days and it looked a little mottled. "Chief Qin, this is?" Qin Guang didn't reply to Zhuge Ling. He frowned even more. He opened the bag and rubbed the cloth in his hand for a moment. "Senior Zhuge, where did you find this piece of cloth?" Finally confirming his thoughts, Qin Guang sniffed with a panicked expression. Zhuge Ling pointed in the direction of the deep mountains. "About 5 kilometers from where we set up camp, there is a dense forest halfway up the mountain. This piece of cloth was found on a big tree at the edge of the forest. Take me there. Are there any signs of fighting at the place where you found the cloth?" Qin Guang walked forward quickly and asked. Zhuge Ling replied, "No." As the two were walking, Abbess Xn Yuan suddenly came out of her tent. "Chief, where are you going in the middle of the night?" Zhuge Ling said without hesitation. "Abbess Xn Yuan, I found something over there." "Okay, don't ask." "Abbess Xn Yuan, please call Senior Wu." "Oh yes, call Boss Long and the guide he found. Let's go and see the situation." Abbess Xn Yuan hesitated a little. "But Chief Qin, what about your safety?" Qin Guang knew that her worry was reasonable, but this piece of cloth was clearly the white windbreaker that one liked to wear. It should be in the position of her pocket. There was an ink mark about 2 millimeters long left by a signature pen. This was once accidentally touched by Qin Guang when he turned the pen. At that time she was heartbroken and gave Qin Guang a good beating. He remembered it deeply. Finding pieces of one's clothes stained with blood nearby, was there anything worse than this in the world? He couldn't sit still for a second. Then invite Taoist Song Song from Plain Clothes Sect and Master Pan from Fist Sect. Abbess Xn Yuan was relieved and asked Wu Qingming to join them. The two split up. Abbess Xn Yuan went to wake up Long Ding Tian and his guide. Wu Qingming went to find Taoist Song Song from Plain Clothes Sect and Fist Tyrant Panda from Fist Sect, who were also masters of the 8 major sections. With these 2 people in charge, they could rest assured when traveling at night. Zhuge Ling was a little unhappy. Abbess Xn Yuan obviously doesn't believe in the strength of Six-Sword Sect. With me and the 9 elders of Six-Sword Sect, so what if the 2 evil sects come? Qin Guang waved his hand and said, "Abbess Xn Yuan is thinking for me. I know that Senior Zhuge is powerful, but it's always good to be careful." In fact, he was more anxious than Zhuge Ling, but this place was not like the city. The deep mountains and wild forests were a good place for an ambush. In less than a minute, a group of nearly 20 people followed Zhuge Ling's guidance and entered the mountain. Taoist Song Song and Fist Tyrant Master Pan not only came in person but also invited the elders from their sections. With the strength of the 8 major sects, this small team could be said to be the elites. Xian Qin and Wu Miaoan wanted to follow, but Qin Guang refused. Although Xian Qin and Wu Miaoan were geniuses, they were only at the peak of bone force. It would be useless to bring them along. Chief Qin, in my opinion, we should have dragged everyone along. I keep having goosebumps all over my body. Along the way, Long Dingtian gripped his large ringed sword tightly and spoke with a little uneasiness. Qin Guang shook his head. I'm afraid I can't wait. What's wrong? Don't ask so much. Let's talk when we get there. All right. Long Dingtian said embarrassedly. Qin Guang stared at Zhuge Ling, who was leading the way. He didn't realize that Long Dingtian seemed to be a little more talkative than usual. He seemed to be unable to hide his excitement. The group moved very quickly. Although Qin Guang only had the cultivation of muscle force, his physical body was strong. Along the way, rocks flew under his feet, but his speed was not any slower than Long Dingtian and his guide. We're here. This is the place. I saw a flash of white light on a tree when I was passing by. I climbed up the tree and found this piece of cloth. After climbing over a mountain, coming out of the valley, and passing through a dense forest, Zhuge Ling finally stopped and pointed at a tree that was so wide that two people could hug it. Just as he said, this tree was indeed at the edge of the forest. However, this dense forest revealed a strange feeling because there was actually a boundless sea of fiery red flowers at the side of the dense forest, and even under the illumination of the quiet and beautiful moonlight, it revealed a dark and deep scarlet red color. Qin Guang couldn't care less and was too lazy to ask for help. He rushed up and used his Qilin arm. His fingertips dug into the tree trunk and climbed up. Soon he reached the middle of the tree. He stopped beside a branch and hugged the branch as he slowly moved forward. On the other side, Zhuge Ling also stepped on the tree trunk and flew up horizontally. He landed beside Qin Guang and pointed at the place in front of him. Chief Qin, this is the place. Qin Guang frowned. If the clothes are stained with blood, then there should be blood on the branch, right? Why is there nothing here? Suddenly Zhuge Ling laughed. His voice was sinister and proud. It was 80% arrogant and 90% arrogant. It was very evil. Of course there's nothing here. Because I've been carrying this piece of cloth with me all this time. Qin Guang's eyes widened. What? Before he finished speaking, he tilted his body and deliberately threw off the tree trunk. He fell down the tree like a head-on spring onion. Just as his head tilted, there was a flash of cold light. Zhuge Ling's sword suddenly cut through the position of his arm that was grabbing the tree trunk. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and let go in time. Otherwise, both of his arms would have been cut off at the base. Head down and feet up, Qin Guang, who was falling from the tree trunk, suddenly saw a dense crowd of heads peeking out from the sea of flowers. There were also countless cold lights that suddenly appeared from behind the dense forest. He understood what was going on. There were at least 100 people lying in ambush here. I've been tricked. I've been ambushed. This is a trap. Zhuge Ling is a traitor. No wonder a group of spies from the poison sect came to their deaths out of nowhere. Coincidentally, they all fell into Zhuge Ling's hands. He had obviously used this trick to provoke the Xinxing sect leader, Dai Quan, who was in charge of guarding, to want to steal the credit. He had made Dai Quan take the initiative to scout in and put the security of the entire campsite in the hands of the Six-Sword sect. That was how he was able to set up this trap and lead me into it. What good acting skills, he even fooled me. No, maybe I've been too worried and impatient these past 2 days. I've lost my composure and neglected some details that I normally wouldn't have neglected. Looking at Zhuge Ling, who was chasing him down from the tree, Qin Guang's anger was indescribable. Zhuge Ling, you're courting death. Abbess Xan Huan, who was under the tree, was furious. She tiptoed and flew up from the ground. The horsetail whisk in her hand was emitting a silver light. Countless flying whisks flew towards Zhuge Ling's long sword that was aimed at Qin Guang's legs. Zhuge Ling was not afraid. His long sword vibrated and made a buzzing sound. He shook off the silver threads of Abbess Xan Huan's horsetail whisk and continued to stab down towards Abbess Xan Huan's head. How dare a small fry from the Thousand Despair sect fight with me? Me too. Beside him, Wu Qingming also tiptoed and charged forward. Dozens of colorful damask flew out from her sleeves and swept towards Zhuge Ling like a venomous snake. As soon as the two of them started fighting, they used all their skills and the battle instantly became white-hot. Qin Guang finally landed on the ground. He almost fell head first onto the ground. Fortunately, his body was strong. Suddenly, the ground was soft mud, so he used his hands to support himself on the ground and rolled a few times to stabilize his body. On the other side, Abbess Xan Huan and Wu Qingming were already fighting with Zhuge Ling in midair. The swordsmanship of the Six-Sword sect was extremely exquisite. As the sect leader of the Six-Sword sect, Zhuge Ling was not at a disadvantage when he fought against two experts who were at the same cultivation level as him. At the same time, the other 9 sect elders of the Six-Sword sect also drew their swords and charged towards Qin Guang. "How dare you!" Taoist Vasp Kalo's words were like thunder. He took a step forward and opened up both of his hands. Under the burst of power, his robe fluttered in the wind and both of his palms pushed forward. A strong force burst out from both of his palms and forced the 3 elders of the Six-Sword sect to retreat. "You're courting death." On the other side, Master Pan from the Fist faction first stomped on the ground, causing a rock the size of a human head to fly up. He waved his right hand and slammed it on the rock. The rock shook and turned into thousands of gravel that flew towards the other 3 sect elders of the Six-Sword sect. Clanging sounds could be heard and sparks flew. The 3 sect elders of the Six-Sword sect waved their swords like silver snakes and barely managed to block the power of the Fist Tyrant's punch. Long Dingtian held his great ring saber and rushed to Qin Guang's side in panic. He shouted, "Chief Qin, run. I'll cover you." Chapter 891. All right. Qin Guang knew that in this situation with his current cultivation at the early stage of muscle strength, it would be useless for him to stay here. Instead, it would make the other people on his side hesitate to attack. He pressed the communication device to ask for help from the camp a few kilometers away while he retreated under the cover of Long Dingtian. The other 3 elders of Six-Sword sect were already fighting with the other 2 experts brought by Taoist Song Song and Master Pan. The strength of the people from Six-Sword sect was stronger than expected. Although this sect was only one of the 27 sects and ranked lower than Plainclothes sect and Fist sect in the pugilistic world, it had obviously hidden its strength for many years. Now that it had exploded, it could be considered as showing its true ability. After Qin Guang and Long Dingtian took 2 steps forward, they came to a halt. In just a few seconds, the experts from the 2 evil sects who were lying in ambush had surrounded the group so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. In front of Qin Guang, a tall man in black with disheveled hair stood in front of the crowd. Another thin man in a purple robe with a golden plume on his head and an iron umbrella on his back stood side by side with the tall man. Behind these 2 people, there were all kinds of experts, old and young, standing crookedly. These people were not the army, so there was no discipline or system. However, the aura of inner strength that emanated from them made the night air a little chilly. They were indeed evil sections. Even if these people were expressionless and their faces could only be vaguely seen under the moonlight, they still gave people a very gloomy feeling. They lived up to their identity as villains. On the other side, after a round of clanking sounds, Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming finally joined forces to repel Zhuge Ling and quickly floated to Qin Guang's side. Abbess Xan Yuan's face was pale. "Chief Qin, leave quickly." Of the 2 in front, one was the Poison sect master, Demon Sovereign Jiu, and the other was the Dark sect master, Xie Junue. Standing behind them were the Poison sect's elder, Jiu He, and the Dark sect's vice sect master, Ghost Shadow. They are all experts. Qin Guang's scalp tingled when he heard the lineup of the opposite side. Thoughts flashed through his mind, and he made a decisive comparison between the strength of both sides that had been displayed so far. Due to the betrayal of the Six-Sword sect, there were only 10 of them left. Among these 10 people he was basically a mascot. Against those at the initial stage of Paijin he might still be able to struggle a little, but against a master at the peak of Paijin, just based on the cloud-expelling palm that Taoist Vasp Kalo casually threw out, it was enough for him to explode on the spot. If Abbess Xan Yuan and Sect Master Wu worked together, they could deal with Six-Sword sect's Zhuge Ling. Taoist Song Song of the Plainclothes sect and Master Pan of the Fist sect could each deal with 3 elders of the Six-Sword sect. If the other 2 elders from the 2 sects worked together, they would be able to deal with the remaining 3 elders from the Six-Sword sect. After careful calculations, if Long Dingtian and his guide could get rid of the sect masters of the Poison sect and Dark sect, as well as Jiu He, Ghost Shadow, and the 4 great guardians of the Dark sect, there was also the Golden Flower Granny that he had met once. Well, if Boss Long could deal with over 100 enemies by himself, then it wasn't impossible for him to fight today. I'd be a fool to believe you. What the hell am I doing? Everyone, surrender yourselves. We don't have much time to waste with you. I will count to 3. If you don't put down your weapons obediently, don't blame us for being impolite. The tall and burly sect master of the Poison sect, Demon Venerable Jiu, had a smug smile on his face as he spoke with a sharp voice that didn't match his physique. Qin Guang silently looked in the direction of the campsite. When he landed, he had already sent out a distress signal. The experts over there were rushing over at full speed, and it would only take them a few minutes to reach here. It seemed like it was time for him to show off his silver tongue. What was he supposed to do to buy himself a few more minutes? Ah, funny, this is really funny. With his hands behind his back, Qin Guang took a step forward, disregarding his own safety, and stood at the front of the crowd. What are you laughing at? 3. Demon Venerable Jiao squinted his eyes and counted while looking at Qin Guang. Qin Guang turned back to look at Zhuge Ling, his mind racing. Do you really think that I don't know that Zhuge Ling is up to no good? Aren't you looking down on me too much? In the autopsy report, Zhuge Ling purposely didn't mention the strange cracks on the corpses, right? As he spoke, he was full of energy and confidence. Not only did he not panic when he was surrounded, he even put on an air of confidence. Unexpectedly, the moment he said this, Demon Venerable Jiao and Evil Monarch Yu's expressions changed, while Zhuge Ling's body trembled. Evidently, Qin Guang had dug out an insignificant topic from the depths of his heart to stall for time. In the end, it struck the greatest taboo in the hearts of these people. Old Master Guang expressed that although this matter could show that he had taken every possibility into account, it was actually not a good thing. What do you know? Zhuge Ling's hand that was holding the sword was trembling, and Demon Venerable Jiao also forgot to continue counting. Qin Guang did not dare to answer Zhuge Ling's words. Although he suspected that someone had obtained the power of the earth element, he did not know who that person was, nor did he know what state that person was in. He also did not understand how that person talked to the two evil sections. After thinking about it, he decided to continue acting. I know everything. Do you really think that I dare to come here today without any backing? Surrender obediently and I will spare your lives. Qin Guang put his hands behind his back, held his head high, and straightened his neck. Have you been shocked by my aura? Do you think that I am beating you at your own game? Not to mention the two evil sects and the traitors of Six Sword Sect. Even Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming looked at each other with some doubt and joy on their faces. They really thought that Qin Guang really had other tricks up his sleeves. At this moment, the back of Qin Guang's head shook violently, and a strong force came from behind him, almost cutting off his neck. A strong and abundant inner strength came from the back of Qin Guang's head, and in an instant, it flowed all over his body, completely blocking his blood flow and wrapping around his bones. There was a crackling sound like firecrackers exploding in his body, and in an instant all the bones in his body were twisted by this terrible inner strength. He was suddenly attacked from behind, and all the inner strength was injected into his body. Although his perfect body was strong, the opponent's inner strength was at its peak. Moreover, he was attacked by a sneak attack and he could not resist it. A heart-wrenching pain pierced through his head like a high-voltage electric current. Qin Guang's vision turned black as he slowly collapsed to the ground. When he looked back when he landed on the ground, he saw Long Dingtian's smug face. If it weren't for the fact that he had experienced this pain countless times in the heavenly Holy Grail, Qin Guang would have completely fainted, but now he barely held on. Long Dingtian was also surprised. He did not expect that this sneak attack did not smash all the bones in Qin Guang's body, but only twisted them. Long Dingtian, you're courting death. Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming, who were standing at the back, changed their expressions. Zhuge Ling's betrayal was already a heavy blow, and Long Dingtian was also a traitor. The two of them roared angrily and pounced forward. Unexpectedly, Long Dingtian threw the big ring saber in his hand to the ground, grinned wildly, clenched his fists, and punched at Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming at the same time. He shouted, "You two take my thunder fist. This is my real kung fu." At the same time there were two loud noises. Both Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming flew backward at a speed faster than they rushed forward. Blood spurted from their mouths, and they fell straight into a sea of fiery red flowers behind them. No one expected that Long Dingtian, who was originally weak and not worth mentioning, could actually knock back two masters at the peak of skin force with one punch. His thunder fist was as powerful as thunder, swift and overbearing. Qin Guang lay on the ground powerlessly, looking back at Long Dingtian's smug smile. Countless images flashed through his mind, and he felt extremely bitter. This guy was not pretending at all. His strength was much stronger than he imagined, at least at the same level as Taoist Song Song. Although his punch just now did not kill him, it completely crippled him. At this moment, even twisting his neck was extraordinarily strenuous. Taoist Song Song and Master Pan looked bitter and were about to rush in the direction of Long Dingtian again, but Long Dingtian bent his waist and sneered while carrying Qin Guang. "Both of you, why don't you surrender?" Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming, who had been knocked into the sea of flowers, stood up again. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and they were on the verge of collapsing. Abbess Xan Yuan still could not believe it. Long Dingdun, why did you do this? Wu Qingming said, there's poison in the tea. Long Dingdun laughed loudly, yes, it's indeed poisonous. Both of you, the taste of the poison sex cultivation dissipation powder is not very pleasant, right? Golden Flower Woman also walked out from the crowd with a proud face. Wu Qingming, you can't figure out why you can't smell it with your ability, right? Aren't you a little too conceited? How can the lost secret medicine of the dark sect, cultivation dissipation powder, be easy to get? If you don't touch the guiding medicine, it will be invisible and colorless. Even if you come here, you won't be able to feel it. But if you touch the guiding medicine, it will instantly take effect. No matter what realm you are at, you will become a useless person. As for the medicinal catalyst, it is naturally the pollen from the sea of blood-red flowers beneath you. As soon as Golden Flower Woman finished her words, Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming collapsed to the ground. Their internal strength poured out from their bodies like a tide. Wu Qingming's originally glossy skin actually aged in an instant. Crow's feet appeared at the corners of her eyes, and her black hair began to turn silver from the roots like snow. The two seniors had lost all their martial arts. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. Although he did not understand the principle of the cultivation dissipation powder mentioned by Long Dingtian, it was not important. What was important was that he had suffered a huge setback this time. Many doubts that he hadn't noticed before finally surfaced slowly at this moment. From a long time ago, Long Dingtian was a member of the poison sect and the dark sect. He had signed an endorsement contract with him. The battle between him and Golden Flower Woman in the Five Capital was a show for him and Xan Qin. He had always been a spy hidden in the upright sect. He and Golden Flower Woman were not enemies of life and death like they were on the surface. All of this was to deceive the trust of the upright sect and himself. Not only that, when he arrived at the villa area yesterday, the two seemingly brainless security guards were actually deliberately arranged by Long Dingtian. It seemed as though they had accidentally revealed the 8 luxury cars, but they had purposely revealed the flaw so that Long Dingtian could use it to smooth things over and further weaken his guard. As for the tea, there was indeed something wrong with it. But because of the exquisite secret medicine of the poison sect, it would not have taken effect at that time. This further made him lower his guard. This was also a trick that Long Dingtian deliberately sold. He knew that he was a smart person and would have a lot of ideas. But the biggest disadvantage of a smart person was that after thinking too much, it was easy to be overconfident. In addition, his information was mixed with some truth and some falsehood. There was no doubt that the poison sect and the dark sect were indeed in Ninghai province. The information he provided was also true. Because of this, I believed all of Long Dingtian's words and led the team here. But I didn't expect to fall into this trap today. So far, there was only one doubt, and that was, where did Jiang Yage get the information that made him completely convinced that the information was correct? Qin Guang did not believe that Jiang Yage would harm him. She was just used. In short, the ultimate goal of all their plans was to capture him alive. So now they succeeded. The bustling sound in the distance was getting closer and closer. The reinforcements from the camp were rushing all the way. But they seemed to be too late. Well, kill the 2 old women and then let's go. Demon Venerable Jiu waved his hand calmly and ordered. Ghost Shadow of the Dark Sect suddenly appeared. The next moment he turned into a black shadow and appeared in front of Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming, who were sitting on the ground. The two looked at each other and their eyes were full of remorse. Things became like this today because Long Dingtian, who had been cooperating with them for a long time, betrayed them first. If it weren't for this guy, why would they come to Ninghai province in such a hurry? They recalled that when Qin Guang was suspicious of Long Dingtian, the two of them were the ones who tried to persuade Qin Guang to help Long Dingtian explain. That was also the reason why Qin Guang misjudged the situation. Qin Guang, I'm sorry. You don't have to do it. I'll do it myself. Ghost Shadow said sinisterly from the cloak. Then please hurry up. Abbess Xan Yuan nodded silently. She pinched the bottom of the horsetail whisk and pulled out a small dagger from the root. She was about to slash her neck with it. Wait a minute. Qin Guang suddenly yelled, and Abbess Xan Yuan's dagger stopped moving. What else do you want to do at this time? Stalling for time? Dark sect leader Xie Junyue sneered. Qin Guang didn't bother about him and turned around to speak to Long Dingdun. Chief Long, seeing that the 2 seniors were once friends with you and seeing that we are acquaintances, let me go to the side of the 2 seniors and let me send them off with my eyes. Qin Guang pursed his lips tightly. In this situation he really couldn't think of any way to save the two seniors' lives. He could only pin his hopes on the heavenly Holy Grail in his sling bag. If the two of them were really alive, if the two of them were as lucky as Ling Qin, perhaps they could continue to live in the heavenly Holy Grail. It was better than dying like this. Long Dingtian hesitated for a moment, and a complicated look flashed in his eyes. Okay. The next moment he carried Qin Guang and stood in the sea of flowers. He was standing 1 or 2 meters in front of the two seniors. Long Dingtian loosened his hand and Qin Guang collapsed like mud. He supported his broken bones with his last breath and sat on the ground. Qin Guang slowly raised his head and looked at Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming in front of him. The endless sea of blood-red flowers seemed as bright as day under the moonlight. Qin Guang's eyes were bloodshot. "Seniors, I'm incompetent. I'm the one who harmed you." Xan Yuan smiled. "No, Qin Guang, this is Qingming's and my fault." Wu Qingming also said, "I, Wu Qingming, boast of my intelligence, but I didn't expect to end up like this." Ghost Shadow, who was standing behind the two of them, urged, "If you don't die, I will personally send you on your way." Abbess Xan Yuan's pupils shrank. The dagger flashed coldly and blood splattered. Wu Qingming took the dagger from Abbess Xan Yuan, who was lying in a pool of blood. Her eyes were momentarily confused. She gritted her teeth and slashed her neck with the dagger. 2 drops of blood flew over from the front and landed on the back of Qin Guang's hand. Smelling the blood in his nose, Qin Guang's mind was blood red. Suddenly, it became empty and he didn't know what was going on. "All right, let's go." Long Dingtian lifted Qin Guang and carried him on his back. He took the lead and ran into the depths of the mountain. The goal had been achieved. The people from the evil sects didn't besiege the people from Plain Cloth Sect and Fist Sect. Instead they retreated like the tide. Taoist Song Song and Master Pan were powerful and couldn't be taken down easily. Instead of ending up being surrounded to kill 2 more people, the people from the 2 evil sects wanted to be safe. "Chief Qin, don't blame me. I have my own master. There's nothing too deceitful in a war between 2 armies. If you want to blame someone, blame Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming. It's their trust in me that misled your judgment. Otherwise you wouldn't be fooled so easily." After an unknown period of time, when Qin Guang woke up, he was still rising and falling on Long Dingtian's back. Long Dingtian knew that he had woken up, so he started to enlighten him. Qin Guang didn't want to pay attention to him. Although his life wasn't in danger for the time being, he thought about how he led the world's experts to Ninghai province in a mighty manner. He originally wanted to destroy the people from the 2 evil sects easily. He didn't expect that he would be tricked from the beginning. Who was the person behind the scenes? He had taken every possibility into account and laid an inescapable net, waiting for him to jump into it. He could even calculate the grudge between the old masters and Yanjing and him. Then he used his unconditional trust in Jiang Yage and deliberately sold real information to Jiang Yage to make him make up his mind. Now that he had become a prisoner, not only could he not help Wenwen, but he would also be used as a hostage to threaten Wenwen. The most painful thing was the deaths of Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming. Although he didn't have much contact with them and didn't have deep feelings for them, they were Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan's masters after all. They treated the 2 little Lolas like their masters and mothers. At this moment they should be looking at the corpses of the 2 seniors and grieving. "Long Dingtian, I don't care who your backer is. I can guarantee that all of you will die." Qin Guang finally spoke. Long Dingtian didn't care and laughed. "Of course we will die. Who doesn't die in this world? That depends on how you die. You die on the spot, you die as a dissolute ghost among thousands of flowers, you die as well, you die as an old man. What on earth are you after?" Qin Guang asked again. Long Dingtian hesitated for a moment before replying, "What am I after? I want to be immortal." "Does your backer have the ability to do that?" "I didn't believe it before, but I believe it recently." "Long Dingtian, you've said too much." The golden flower woman turned around and glared at him. Long Dingtian laughed. "What's wrong with that? Anyway, Qin Guang won't live for long. Once Wenwen dies, he won't be able to live anymore. Chief Qin, don't worry. I will personally send you on your way and won't let anyone torture you. I guarantee that you will lose your senses the moment you close your eyes. Then I will have to thank you." Qin Guang suddenly laughed, and it was an exceptionally strange laugh. Just now, his consciousness took a trip to the heavenly Holy Grail. Lu Li was still in seclusion. Lu Ming saw that his mental state wasn't right and said a few more words to him. "Firstly, you won't die. Secondly, you have been stained with the blood of that nun and that coquettish old vixen. Now the 2 of them have been reborn in the sea of time. Thirdly, Lu Li's matter will be done soon. Chapter 892. Previously, when Qin Guang was at the camp, no one felt that he was of much use. He was more like a mascot. But now that he was captured, and the two deputy directors fainted because of the loss of their teacher, the camp by the lake of Ninghai suddenly fell into a state of no leader. Then many of the Jianghu experts who relied on the Guangding General Office realized that the situation was not good. Now they were in an awkward situation and no one could make a decision. Everyone was even more at a loss as to what to do. It could even be said that Qin Guang was captured and everyone's confidence was shaken. It seemed that the Guangding General Office of Wuxia was not as powerful as imagined. He looked like he was useless, but in fact they really could not do without him. His identity not only represented the government, but he was also the world's #1 expert. His identity was not considered noble, but it was indeed enough to convince the public. But now that he was lost, the rest of the people were in a mess. The special agents of the Guangding General Office and the Jianghu people blamed each other. No one could stand the other and no one was willing to listen to the other. Originally, with the status and strength of the Jianghu leaders of plainclothes faction and fist faction, even if there was an accident, it would not be a problem for them to take over the authority of Qin Guang and the two deputy directors and give orders. But now Qin Guang was captured under the eyes of these two people. As the leaders of the 8 major sects, they were highly respected and had profound skills. Although it was not good for others to say anything in front of them, it was hard to know what was in a man's heart. It was hard to guarantee that no one would secretly suspect whether plainclothes faction and fist faction had been bribed. At this time, the words of the two sects were not so useful. The two evil sects had taken great pains to capture Qin Guang, so it was impossible that they had no other purpose. It was not difficult to guess that the two evil sects and the defecting Six Swords faction were very likely to use Chief Qin to make a fuss. Maybe their real target was Wen Jiawen. Once they succeeded and Wen Jiawen died, did this mean that the Wuxia officials sent out troops to suppress them was all bark and no bite and they still failed in the end? As the saying went, when the team grew bigger, it became harder to lead the team. This was the current situation. Even their leader had been kidnapped, so the people below naturally had their own thoughts. Xue Lin accepted the responsibility in the face of danger. Although his words were still useful in the Wuxia military, he really had no right to speak on the Jianghu people's side. He could only stabilize the situation. On the other hand, after the news of Qin Guang's capture reached Beijing, there was an uproar. When that kid was safe and sound, the group of old men in Yanjing didn't think that he was of much use. But now that he was suddenly lost, they only knew how to cherish him after losing him. The situation in Yanjing immediately turned into a mess. Someone proposed at the meeting that since they now knew the general location of the other party, it was better to take advantage of the fact that they were in Ninghai, a sparsely populated province, to launch a large-scale precise attack and blow them up. Chao Jingming, Jiang Yuanchao's nemesis, was the leader of those who held this view. Jiang Yuanchao and Xue Zhan, on the other hand, strongly opposed the idea. They suggested that even missiles might not be able to completely destroy the enemy. If they failed to achieve their goal, the consequences would be unimaginable. Moreover, now that Qin Guang was being held hostage, they couldn't possibly blow up the hostage as well, right? The two groups argued fiercely in the meeting, almost to the point of fighting. Until the end of the meeting, there was still no conclusion. I still feel that this is not so simple. Chao Jingming is too optimistic about burning the bridge after crossing it. If it was so easy to blow up these people, we wouldn't have to be so troubled. Have you contacted Xue Lin? What do the people there think? After the meeting, Jiang Yuanchao complained to Xue Zhan in private. Xue Zhan sighed. Now the two deputy chiefs are not in the mood to manage things, and the others don't have a legitimate identity. Two major forces in the Jianghu people have betrayed them, and they are very suspicious of each other. Xue Lin can only barely control the situation and prevent it from becoming a complete mess. But there are already people who want to retreat, and there are also people who are on good terms with sect leader Xian and sect leader Wu who want to fight to the death. 100 people have 100 ideas. Sigh. Qin Guang, this kid, sigh. Jiang Yuanchao sighed, his head full of bumps. Why was he taken away just like that? At this moment, Jiang Yuanchao's personal guard walked in quickly. He glanced at Xue Zhan and hesitated to speak. Jiang Yuanchao urged, "Just say it, I have nothing to hide from old Xue." The personal guard said, "Boss, Miss Jiang is here." Jiang Yuanchao was stunned. "Why is Yargo here at this time?" "Miss Jiang said she has something very important to talk to you about." Jiang Yuanchao thought for a moment. Although Jiang Yage was the apple of her family's eye and was quite favored, she had never participated in political or military affairs. She only focused on being a celebrity, singing whenever she wanted, acting in movies whenever she wanted. Fortunately, she had made a name for herself and didn't embarrass her family. This time, even if the news of Qin Guang's capture reached her, she should know that with his personality, he would definitely find a way to rescue him and would never sit back and do nothing. Although Yargo was usually not a proper person, she was actually quite sensible. She knew that he was in a terrible situation, so why would she come here? Let her in. Jiang Yuanchao ordered. I'm sorry, old Shui. Shui Zhan waved his hand. Maybe Yargo was asked by Shiyue to find out more about the situation. No matter what, for the sake of Shiyue's love for Qin Guang as the elders, we must try our best. If we can't do it, we can just wait for the other party to negotiate. As long as Qin Guang is not dead, there is still room for negotiation. We can also discuss the conditions they put forward. As long as it is not too much, we can still negotiate within the scope of expediency. As the two were talking, Jiang Yage pushed the door open with a pale face and walked in quickly. She first looked at Shui Zhan, but without much hesitation she swallowed and said, Dad, there is something wrong with Uncle Chao. Jiang Yuanchao and Shui Zhan were stunned at first, not understanding what Jiang Yage meant. Jiang Yuanchao said, You can't just say things like that. Jiang Yage lost control of her emotions at that moment. It was a conspiracy from the beginning. Those people wanted to lure Qin Guang there. I know you wanted to hide Wenwen's whereabouts from Qin Guang, so I wanted to help him, so I secretly asked someone to find out. Then Uncle Chao asked someone to tell me that Wenwen's mobile phone had a signal at the border between Yinxia and Ninghai. I told this to Qin Guang, and that was the reason why Qin Guang would immediately set off with his men. That's why I fell into their trap. I regret it so much. Jiang Yuanchao and Shui Zhan looked at each other. Yargo, you really can't just say things like that. There must be evidence. Chao Jingming is also a general of the same rank as us. We can't just convict him based on one side of the story. Moreover, the most important thing for us now is to find a way to rescue Qin Guang. As for the investigation of the mole, let's postpone it for the time being. Jiang Yage burst into tears. I know that, but I feel terrible. Didn't Uncle Chao get punished for speaking rudely to Qin Guang during the military exercise? He hated me at that time. Shut up. Jiang Yuanchao interrupted her without hesitation. Don't say any more. Now is not the time to pursue this matter. Based on Chao Jingming's performance in the meeting, Jiang Yuanchao knew that his daughter's guess was probably right. But this kind of speculation, no matter how reasonable it sounded, could never be used as evidence, let alone punish Chao Jingming for it. Jiang Yage cried even harder. Jiang Yuanchao didn't know how to comfort her, so he patted her shoulder. My good daughter, as your father, I promise you, if the other party threatens us with Qin Guang's life and wants to negotiate with us, even if I have to sacrifice my principles, I will give in on the negotiation table, okay? Shui Zhan opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He felt that it was not right for Jiang Yuanchao to make such a promise to Jiang Yage, but there seemed to be no other way. After a while, Jiang Yage finally calmed down, but she didn't stay for long. She said that she had to go back to compensate Jin Shiyue and left. Sigh. Jiang Yuanchao heaved a long sigh. Shui Zhan sighed as well. After a while, Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua, who flew to Yanjing overnight, also arrived. Their intentions were more or less the same. No one really wanted to give up on Qin Guang, but in such a hurry, no one could do anything about it. Everything was passive, and they could only wait for the other party to contact them. On the other hand, in the campsite by Ninghai Lake, everyone was arguing. Some people from the sects were already planning to leave. Shuilin didn't have much experience and she didn't have much power in the military. In addition to her young age, she couldn't show her authority in the face of these internal force users, whom she could only look up to in the past. The two armies are at war. We haven't even seen the person and the commander is already captured. What's the point of fighting? Why don't we just disband and go back? In the future we can still take care of our own business. What a joke. Shut up. I think the blood cloth sect is also a traitor. Who doesn't know that you guys like to train with the blood of children? You're slandering us. Since the founding of the nation, the blood cloth sect has never done anything that harms living beings. We all buy and sell openly. Children are not deceived. The blood collection vehicle is also internationally advanced. One needle at a time, strictly sterilized and resolutely put an end to infectious diseases. All right. Old man, take a break. You're still thinking of advertising yourself at a time like this. My friends in the Jianghu, no matter what, we used to be small businesses in the wild. Although we didn't have to worry about food and clothing, we were always afraid that one day, those in power would suddenly act like the ancient emperors and use their martial arts to break the law and kill us. It was Chief Qin who made the Guangding headquarters happen. Everyone had a place to settle down. Although they had less freedom than when Ouyang Tianxing was in charge, they had more peace. I feel that we can't turn a blind eye to the burning of bridges after crossing the river. That's right. Chief Qin was captured because the people from the evil sects slapped our faces. What's most important in the Jianghu? Face is the most important. Loyalty is the most important. Chief Qin is our leader. Now that our leader has been captured, are we going to turn around and run? What will the history books say? The history books will scold us for practicing martial arts all our lives, but at the critical moment we become turtles. Our children and grandchildren will be a laughing stock for generations. This old man can't afford to lose face. Old Baldy, you make it sound nice. Then what do you think we should do now? Kill our way in to save them? Who's going to lead the team? You. Aren't you afraid that the people from the evil sects will kill the hostages? Are you going to take responsibility if Chief Qin gets killed? Even so, we can't just turn around and run, right? Shui Lin sat in the crowd and watched the group of people making a racket. He tried several times to speak up to maintain order, but he couldn't even raise his voice. Chapter 893. Almost everyone here could kill him in a second. He was only a squad leader before he joined the military. Even in the Guangding General Headquarters, he was only a temporary commander during the mission to annihilate the broken world. In the end, he fell into a trap and was captured. When he came back to his senses, the broken world was inexplicably destroyed. He had no credit, no ability, no experience. He was basically a nobody. Naturally, he did not have any prestige. At this moment, the tent was suddenly opened. Two little girls appeared outside the tent. They were Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan, who had been crying for a whole night. Their eyes were red and swollen. The leaders and elders of the various sects in the tent temporarily quieted down. Although the Thousand Despair sect and the Thousand Flower Valley were small sects in the martial arts world, they moved quickly. They had long been in contact with the Wuxia government and were now the deputy director of the Guangding General Headquarters. No matter how inexperienced these two little girls were, at least at this moment, they represented the official orthodoxy. People who practiced martial arts paid attention to orthodoxy and status. Moreover, these two deputy directors had lost their master because of this matter. The people of Jianghu understood the importance of the master's inheritance. No one would rub salt on the two girls' wounds at this time. Their master had sacrificed his life for the country. Now that his corpse was still warm, it was reasonable to show some respect. Otherwise, they would be looked down upon by the people of Jianghu. Even if Qin Guang was dead, the people of Jianghu did not think that the Guangding General Headquarters would be disbanded. What if these two girls continued to be the deputy directors in the future? Seniors, someone from the Dark Clan contacted us just now. Although Xan Qin's eyes were red and swollen, her expression was exceptionally firm. What did they say? Taoist Song Song of the plainclothes sect was the most anxious. Just as the person said, Qin Guang was captured under his protection. If they really suffered a crushing defeat this time, even if the plainclothes sect was one of the 8 major sects, they would not be able to raise their heads for a few years. They want us to withdraw immediately. Otherwise they will kill the hostages. The words that came out of Xan Qin's mouth instantly caused a huge commotion. Some people agreed with her and quickly nodded their heads in agreement. The general idea was that no matter what, they should withdraw first and slowly plan later. There were also more radical people who strongly opposed it, such as Taoist Song Song and Fist Tyrant Panda. Taoist Vasp Kalo anxiously said, "This is ridiculous. The reason why they kidnapped Bureau Chief Qin is to deal with when family sect leader Wen. If sect leader Wen does not appear, Bureau Chief Qin's life will not be in danger. They are only scaring us." Fist Tyrant Panda nodded. That's right. If they wanted to kill Chief Qin, they would have done so immediately. Why would they take him away? Deputy Bureau Chief Xan, we have to avenge your teacher. We can't leave. Everyone argued for a few more minutes, but it was no different from before. It was still impossible to reach a consensus. All right, seniors, please stop quarreling. Xan Qin's voice finally broke the noisy situation and drew everyone's attention back to her. Dozens of Jianghu seniors turned their heads to look at her. Xan Qin took a deep breath. Retreat. Many people secretly heaved a sigh of relief. However, Taoist Song Song and Fist Tyrant Panda refused to accept it and left just like that. Although most of the pressure would fall on the two deputy bureau chiefs, and others would secretly say that they did not care about their teacher's blood feud, the two major sects would not be able to escape the gossip. Unexpectedly, Wu Miaoan said, "Commander Shui will lead the troops to retreat first, but we sisters will continue to stay here under our own names. We sincerely request the seniors who are willing to help us to stay and help us to avenge our teacher. Right now, we do not know where Sect Leader Wen is and cannot contact her, but perhaps Sect Leader Wen will need our help. However, as long as we can find Sect Leader Wen and discuss with her, with Sect Leader Wen's unparalleled skills, she might be able to come up with a solution." Everyone immediately understood. In order to deal with the request of the evil sects and prevent any possibility of Chen Guang being killed, the two girls gave the order to retreat on the surface, but because of the blood feud between their sect and the current uncertain situation, someone had to stay behind to support them. However, they had a strong army now and the other party had set up an ambush. After a portion of the people left, this place would really become a tiger's den. Sect leader Wen was indeed trustworthy, but that was something that had yet to be seen. What if she did not come? What if she was too conceited and went to the headquarters of Poison Sect or Dark Sect? Or what if the two evil sects and the traitors from Six Sword Sect attacked first? No one would have thought that two juniors with bone force would have such courage. Who would leave, who would stay? This was a question that many people had to face. Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan pursed their lips and looked at the hesitant Jianghu people. At this moment, no one was in a more difficult situation than them. Thousand Despair Sect and Thousand Flower Valley were not powerful sects to begin with, and it was Xan Qin who introduced Long Ding Tian to Qin Guang. Dragon Gate Express was on the same side as Thousand Despair Sect and Thousand Flower Valley. The consequences of Long Ding Tian's betrayal were much more serious than Six Sword Sect's Zhuge Ling. If one were to say that inviting a wolf into the house was a mistake, the first mistake was Xan Qin. Now that their master was dead and there were no more powerful experts in the sect, they had to sit in such a troublesome position. Their own abilities were not enough to convince the others, and the most difficult thing to bear was that Qin Guang was captured. Both of them were equally anxious. On one hand, they had to worry about Qin Guang's safety, and on the other hand, they had to avenge their master. The two young girls were in a dilemma. That was why they came up with the idea of retreating on the surface and staying behind on their own. However, they knew that they would be in trouble if they stayed behind. There would not be many people who would be willing to help them. As expected, not long after, many Jianghu people waved their hands and left. Shuelin watched anxiously behind the two of them. This group of heartless and selfish cowards. Otherwise, I'll stay behind with my men. However, Xan Qin shook her head and refused. The other party used the retreat as a condition. Although you have a lot of men, they are all ordinary people. They won't be of much use in a fight between experts. It's better to retreat directly to confuse the public. We came in a hurry this time and you only brought individual weapons. It's possible to sneak an attack on a bone force martial artist, but it's barely enough to deal with an expert at the peak of skin force. It will only increase the number of casualties. Wu Miaoan nodded. The two of us will stay behind. Even if the people from the evil sects take action, we can still deal with them. But, no buts. However, when most of the people left, leaving only Taoist Song Song, Fist Tyrant Panda, and a dozen sect leader-level experts, Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan still could not hide their disappointment. With the strength of these people, it would be far from enough. Even Taoist Vasp Kalo and Panda both called the other elder back. Obviously the two sect heads had decided to give up their lives here. Sending one elder back was also to leave more incense for the sect. The mighty army that was pressing down on the border instantly fell apart because of Qin Guang's capture. This was out of everyone's expectation. On top of the mountain, Ghost Shadow was holding a telescope and looking at the camp from afar. He sneered. This group of righteous sects is like this. They rely on their numbers to have some guts. Actually, when the time comes, they're all cowards. He stood beside Ghost Shadow. He was also holding a telescope. But there are still some who are not afraid of death. Those two girls actually didn't leave. Why don't we? Ghost Shadow shook his head. Forget it. Taoist Song Song and Fist Tyrant Panda are powerful. Even if sect leader makes a move, he might not be able to take them down easily. Let's wait for Mr. Shadow to ambush and kill that one clan's demoness. By then these people are just small fries. He continued, I don't know where Mr. Shadow got his fortuitous encounter. This time his power actually increased greatly. But for some reason I'm still worried whether he can kill that one clan's demoness. Ghost Shadow also sighed. Only the heavens know what's going on. Mr. Shadow and One Clan's demonists are not at a realm that we can estimate. That little girl is also filled with strangeness. Her power is like a monkey that can fly to the sky. We're afraid just looking at her. If it wasn't for the fact that we have absolute confidence, why would we spend so much effort to capture Qin Guang? You said that you're also called Ghost Shadow. Mr. Shadow also has the word ing in his name. Why are the two of you so different? Scram. The two of them chatted happily with each other. In the dark sect of the Poison Sect, Jiuhe and Ghost Shadow had a close relationship. Although they were not in the same sect, their movements were almost inseparable. Both of them were skilled in alacrity and were good at gathering information as well. At this moment, Qin Guang was tied up tightly with hemp rope. He was lying on a metal bed. The room he was in was underground, and there was only a dim light above his head. 2 flies were flying around the light and buzzing. He was speechless. All the bones in his body were cracked, and Long Dingtian actually found such a thick rope to tie him up like a dumpling. About half an hour ago the right side of his butt had been itching. He wanted to scratch it but he couldn't move. It was extremely uncomfortable. What was even more infuriating was that from being captured last night until he was locked in this dungeon this morning, he hadn't eaten a single grain of rice or drank a single drop of water. His stomach was rumbling with hunger. This situation of hunger and thirst had weakened the self-regeneration ability of the Earth Sauce Exploder. Until now, the cracks on his bones hadn't healed. What do you guys think this cup is used for? Why does this guy carry it with him all day long? Long Dingtian sat on the sofa with his legs crossed. He was holding on to Qin Guang's heavenly holy grail and was sizing it up. The golden flower matron lit a cigarette. Maybe he has some weird fetish. It's fine for a man to carry a cup with him, but he actually learned from a little girl and wrapped it with a knitted cover. What a virtue. Chapter 894. Long Dingtian smacked his lips. That's right. Iron Man. I didn't expect a grown man like Qin Guang to still have a child's heart. Fortunately, he didn't see Qin Guang's Hello Kitty cup cover. Otherwise he would have to dig his eyes out. But out of curiosity he decided to remove the cup cover to see what was inside. At this moment, Lu Minghua was gnashing his teeth in the heavenly holy grail. 2 lowly mortals. I'm warning you. Don't court death. It was a pity that Long Dingtian couldn't hear Lu Minghua's threat and casually tore off the Iron Man cup cover. The heavenly holy grail turned into a fiberglass cup and was exposed to the air. In an instant, the huge room was filled with multicolored lights and vibrant colors. Sanskrit chants could be heard, and a strange fragrance rose without any wind. The above was purely boasting. The truth of the matter was that the dear fruit fiercely gritted its teeth and wasted its divine power in vain, wrapping a layer of cover on the surface of the colored glass portrait on the wall of the cup. The fairy goddess that Lu Li had transformed into was gone. After all, she didn't have any clothes. She had turned into a large green fruit. I thought it was something incredible. It turned out to be a fiberglass cup. Diske, this taste is truly terrible. Who would print such a strange green fruit on the cup? Shouldn't it be plum, orchid, bamboo, and chrysanthemum? Otherwise, a landscape painting would also be good. Ugly, truly ugly. What kind of aesthetic sense is this? Isn't it too problematic? The golden flower matron snatched the cup from Long Dingtian's hand and threw it into the rubbish bin. You are always so troublesome. Mr. Ing will be back soon. Let's go to the dungeon and take a look. I hope that fellow Qin Guang doesn't bite his tongue and commit suicide. Long Dingtian stood up in boredom. You really think too highly of him. I understand him. I can confirm that Qin Guang might look like an upright person, but deep in his bones, he has the character of, die for me. Even if he knows that we are using him to restrain Wenwen, he won't commit suicide. Is that so? Of course. Lu Minghua, who was in the cup, was trembling with anger. 2 reckless ants. How dare you say that there's something wrong with this Empress's aesthetics? I will make the 2 of you into elemental puppets and make you slaves for all eternity. How dare you throw the Holy Grail into the dustbin? The 2 of you are in trouble. This Empress is telling you the 2 of you are really in trouble. The last time I was this angry, I had to slaughter millions of divine nations to barely appease my anger. Lu Li's voice suddenly sounded out. All right, Lu Ming, stop arguing. It's not worth it to be angry over the matters of these ants. Sister Lioli, you're finally out of seclusion? Not yet. How much longer? It depends on my mood. Lu Ming, it's also because I don't have a thumb. Otherwise I'd really want to give Sister Lioli a thumbs up. In the past, I always looked down on Qin Guang, feeling that he wasn't worthy of Sister Lioli's support and help. I don't know why, but now I suddenly feel a little pity for him. It's really hard for him to be the savior of someone like Sister Lioli. Actually, the two of them were a perfect match, one half a caddy and the other eight tails. Long Ding Tian and Golden Flower Granny chatted as they walked and went straight to the damp and cold dungeon. Long Ding Tian crossed his arms behind his back and ran in front of Qin Guang with a smile. He looked down at him from above. "Director Qin, is this room comfortable?" Qin Guang, damn retard. Golden Flower Granny popped her head out from the other side. "I'm talking to you. Damn retard multiplied by 2. Do you believe that I'll kill you right now?" Golden Flower Granny raised her hand, her palm pulsing with inner strength. She was obviously angry. Qin Guang laughed coldly, not caring. "Come on, don't pretend in front of me. It's boring, really boring. If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it long ago. Why wait until now? If you have something to say it quickly. In any case, don't even think about getting any information from me. I've never been someone who is afraid of death. Come at me if you have any tricks up your sleeves." Long Ding Tian said, "Director Qin, you're thinking too much. We all know that you're famous in Guangding Police Headquarters for not doing anything. I'm afraid that you don't even know everyone in the headquarters. How can I expect to get any information from you? You don't even know as much as I do." Qin Guang realized that in a sense this guy was right. It was so King awkward. Forget it, don't worry about the details. In any case, I'm not panicking at all. Since they came here to pretend instead of escorting me out and asking me to record it, it means that one hasn't appeared yet. That's good news. So, you adulterous couple came down here just to show off to me? You guys sure have nothing better to do. Qin Guang replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. How can I not lose in terms of aura when facing a villain? I have to be more of a villain than they appear. You can bind my body, but you can't bind my free self. Long Ding Tian saw that he was still so calm and said in surprise, "Qin Guang, I realize that I've really underestimated you. Are you really not afraid of death? A real man lives as a hero and dies as a hero. Life is lighter than a goose feather, and death is heavier than Mount Tai. This is just a stinky body. If it's gone, then it's gone. I, Qin Guang, have stood tall for 20 years. I have a clear conscience. Do I still care about this? 20 years later, I'll be a real man again. You two better hide your graves deep. Otherwise, I'll definitely find your graves and grind your bones into ashes. No, I'll make your ashes into a plaster piggy bank. I'll throw a dime into it every day and listen to the sound. You two traitors scourging the world and betraying your friends. Your retribution will come sooner or later. It's not that the time hasn't come yet. I have God 3 feet above my head, and my heart is filled with righteousness. In a few days, I'll turn into a sharp blade of justice and let the two of you know the vicissitudes of righteousness. Thinking of the long days of heaven and earth. Confidence, unafraid of death, and confidence in bragging. Qin Guang felt that his current heroic spirit was comparable to those martyrs during the War of Resistance. No, I should be more literary than them. It's a pity that Qin Huang and Han Wu are slightly inferior. I'm ashamed, I'm really ashamed. I'm a person protected by God. I've let everyone see a joke. Ever since he knew that Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming could be resurrected in the Sea of Time, the pressure in his heart had been greatly relieved. In a sense, this might be a great news. This meant that he, who possessed the heavenly Holy Grail, had actually found an excellent escape route for his friends and family. In the beginning, only Leng Qin was resurrected in the Sea of Time, and this matter was still uncertain. Later on, there was Nicosia, but this might be related to Nicosia's unimaginably powerful machinery heart. But now, he had used the same trick and actually succeeded in protecting Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming's souls. This was an official announcement that he had developed a new function for the Heavenly Holy Grail. It could collect the souls of those who died in the Heavenly Holy Grail or near him. This was the strongest and most insane function of the Heavenly Holy Grail. This meant that from today onwards, as long as he was careful, those who followed him wouldn't die. 2 lives. Wait a minute. Qin Guang pinched his fingers and calculated. It seemed like there were more than 1 or 2 people who fulfilled this condition. Why did he only notice Leng Qin and Nicosia? Lu Mingguo was only talking about Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming. What about the others? He wanted to enter the Heavenly Holy Grail, but the Grail was taken away. Although she would definitely think of a way when Azure came out of seclusion, she wasn't used to it now. Forget it, he would ask later. The forced PY transaction had not cooled down yet. Otherwise, if he used it on Long Ding Tian, he would definitely obediently hand over the Grail with both hands. Long Ding Tian understood Qin Guang's character. He knew that he was stubborn and pretended to be the most unyielding. Long Ding Tian curled his lips and smiled without saying anything. But the golden flower woman beside him was shocked. She wondered why this guy was so resolute and even started to recite a poem. If this guy really succeeded in seeking death with Mr. Ying's style of doing things, she and Long Ding Tian would definitely be buried with him. Although it was inconvenient for Chen Guang to move at this time, he saw the golden flower woman's expression. His heart moved and he said again, "Haha, don't you want to use my life to threaten one? It's not a big deal. Anyway, I reckon that in another day or two I will almost pass away." The golden flower woman pulled out a handkerchief from her hand and wanted to stuff it into Chen Guang's mouth. She thought that this guy couldn't move now. If he wanted to commit suicide, he could only bite his tongue and commit suicide. However, Chen Guang was still smiling. "Come on. Shut my mouth. Aren't you afraid that I will bite my tongue and commit suicide? Don't look down on me. How painful would that be? Surely a hunger strike is more reliable, okay? Once you fall asleep, you won't wake up." The golden flower woman glared. "You want to die on a hunger strike? Dream on. Dream on? To tell you the truth, from last night until now, I haven't eaten a grain of rice or drunk a drop of water. In another 3 or 4 days, you'll have to wait to collect my corpse." "Ah. 10 minutes later. I'll stuff you to death. I'll stuff you to death. How about a big, greasy chicken drumstick? I'll make you go on a hunger strike. Show me how you go on a hunger strike." I say, Long Ding, why do I feel that he's eating quite happily? You've already eaten 5 servings by yourself. How can you go any further? Chen Guang roared angrily. "Both of you remember this. If you have the guts, then stuff me to death. If you don't stuff me to death, I'll be your grandfather." After stuffing a total of 10 people's worth of food into his mouth, Chen Guang kept cursing. In the end, Long Ding Tian and the golden flower woman didn't reject any of the fried chicken, hamburgers, pot stickers, and fried dumplings that were sent to his mouth. Damn it, this group of bastards hid in the mountains, yet their food was so authentic. Let's not talk about the fried chicken, hamburgers, and other foreign fast food. This pot sticker was fried until it was golden and crispy. It melted in the mouth and was fragrant and delicious. The taste of the fried dumplings was also the work of a master. It looked like a simple dish, but it was made in style. When chewed in the mouth, it reminded one of youth that had passed away under the setting sun. Go, go, go. What time is it now? Hurry up and eat. Who cares about taste? He was actually quite full, but once his stomach started to fill up, the Earth Sauce Exploder's regenerative ability began to take effect. In the time it took to eat such a big meal, the bones in his arms, which were the most severely broken, had recovered by 30%. The food that had just entered his stomach was being rapidly digested. He didn't know when Lioli would be done, but there was definitely no harm in recovering as soon as possible. "What are the two of you doing here?" At this moment, a low and angry shout came from the entrance of the dungeon. Long Ding Tian and Golden Flower Granny shivered and hurriedly threw the food in their hands to the ground. Chen Guang could even see Long Ding Tian hiding his greasy hands behind his back and rubbing them on the back of his clothes. If he remembered correctly, when he was captured yesterday, Long Ding Tian had forced Abbess Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming back with 2 punches. At that time, the cultivation dissipation powder should have just started to take effect. This meant that Long Ding Tian's personal strength should be above 6 sword sex Zhuge Ling. He was on the same level as poison sex demonic Jiao and dark sex evil monarch Yu. He was slightly stronger than Taoist Song Song and fist sex master Pan. Later, when he conversed with demonic Jiao and evil monarch Yu, he was neither servile nor overbearing. Both parties were indeed on the same level. On the other hand, Golden Flower Granny was indeed one of the dark sect's 4 great guardians. It seemed that it was because of her good relationship with Long Ding Tian that she had a relatively high status in the dark sect. Since this person could make Long Ding Tian so nervous, didn't it mean that the person's identity was not simple? Ever since they were captured, Chen Guang had heard the 3 words Mr. Ing from their mouths more than once. It seemed that he was finally going to meet the real mastermind behind the scenes. I want to see what kind of person this Mr. Ing is and whether he has 3 heads and 6 arms. Thinking about how this guy had played him in circles with his schemes, he was really infuriated. This time he had really suffered a terrible defeat. If it wasn't for the flash of inspiration at the crucial moment that saved the lives of the 2 seniors, he would really have been consigned to eternal damnation this time. "Mr. Ing." "Greetings, Mr. Ing." As the black figure walked closer, Long Ding Tian and Golden Flower Granny bowed to greet him. Mr. Ing snorted. "Look at you 2 idiots. Just a few words from Qin Guang and you've provoked him to the point of bursting? Hurry up and get lost. Long Ding Tian and Golden Flower Granny quickly shrunk their necks and ran out. Qin Guang tilted his head and sized up this extremely mysterious Mr. Ing. At this moment he felt very strange. He knew that this person was likely to be the mastermind behind all the conspiracies and should be in existence like a big boss. But what was very strange was that although he couldn't see his face, his subconscious subconsciously wanted to despise him. No, to be precise, it should be contempt. This kind of emotion appeared out of nowhere. But it was deeply rooted, as if it came from the most primitive instinct in the depths of one's heart. It simply couldn't be influenced by ordinary thinking. Qin Guang felt that at this moment he was probably a little like the king of beasts at the top of the food chain, a fierce tiger looking down on a trembling little white rabbit. He simply couldn't understand. Although the old man was very confident, although the old man had been waiting for Liuli to pull him ashore, but I shouldn't be so blindly confident to this point, right? No, what exactly is wrong? Logically speaking, I'm clearly lying on the chopping board, and I'm the fish on the chopping board, right? What kind of **t was I pretending to be when I let go of myself? Qin Guang was sizing up Mr. Ing and he was also sizing up Qin Guang. At this moment, the person's mind kept recalling the scene of Qin Guang destroying the sky with a flip of his palm and shaking the earth with a flip of his palm. Until today, the impact that he received at that moment was still unforgettable. He looked calm, but he was extremely nervous in his heart. He was also trying hard to test Qin Guang's situation, wanting to know if he was really as weak as he looked. Finally, Mr. Ing was sure of his thoughts. Chapter 895. Qin Guang, I didn't expect you to end up like this. How is it? It doesn't feel good to be a prisoner, right? That person suddenly spoke. His tone was calm, but there was a lingering sense of pride in it. He seemed to be trying his best to suppress and conceal it, but because he was too proud of himself, he couldn't control it. At this moment, Qin Guang couldn't be bothered to retort. You're a boss character, so at the very least you should be a little more composed. You're beaming with joy and I've completely lost control of myself, so it's awkward. I don't want to be like this, but I can't control myself. Mr. Ing? Qin Guang asked tentatively. As he asked, he was thinking in his heart. This guy is not Mr. Ing. This guy is not Mr. Ing. How could I be tricked by this kind of person? This is too embarrassing. That's right. It's me. Mr. Ing answered without hesitation. If not for his hands being tied, Qin Guang really wanted to cover his face. Don't be so direct with your answer. Fine, you win this time. What do you want? Do you think you can be like those ancient emperors after killing me in one? You can rise up and command the masses to rule the world? Wake up, please open your eyes and look at what era it is now. What era is it now? Why are you still resorting to such meaningless schemes? I suggest you hurry up and get married, have a son, and then start training him now. When he turns 18, send him to Renmin University or the School of Politics. When he graduates from college, you can escort him all the way to become a civil servant. In about 30 to 40 years, you might be able to fight for the world. If not, you can also look at the history of companies like Apple, Microsoft, Goldman Sachs, ARM, or Samsung. You can try to catch up with the trend and try to earn some capital. Invest more and do business well. In a few years or 10 years, you will own a company worth trillions. Isn't that better than living on the edge of a knife and plotting against humanity? Oh, I heard that Poison Clan and Dark Clan are quite rich in the past? For the one family, a few billion isn't a big deal. You shouldn't be any worse off, right? If you really want to experience the feeling of being an emperor, I suggest you choose a small country that is slightly more remote. Even if you buy an island, it's not a big deal. Even if you kill me in one, it's useless. Right now, others still have scruples. If you really provoke them, can you withstand the power of a nuclear bomb? Qin Guang instantly became a chatterbox. It wasn't that he had nothing better to do, but the more he talked, the more he could arouse the other party's interest. The more he spoke, the more information he revealed. It was better than this situation where he knew so much about her and she did not even know his surname or his name. Shut up. Right, Qin? Mr. Ing suddenly roared and interrupted Qin Guang. All right. Since you don't want to hear it, I won't say it. Qin Guang replied casually. Suddenly he came back to his senses and felt that something was wrong. What did he call me? Right, Qin? Holy shit. What's going on? Seeing Qin Guang's expression changed, Mr. Ing knew that he guessed right. He suddenly opened his cloak. A middle-aged man's face full of cracks and black fog appeared in the light of the basement. He grinned at Qin Guang. Ah, do you think you can fool everyone? You can't believe it, right? I am Mr. Ing. Mr. Ing is me. Now you should know me, right? Qin Guang turned his head and looked at him. After a long while, Qin Guang said, "To be honest, I still don't know you." Mr. Ing, who was the middle-aged man, was suddenly stunned. "You don't know me? You turned me into a stray dog, you took everything from me, and now you tell me that you don't know me?" Qin Guang's mind was filled with hundreds of thousands of questions. "Are you famous? Why should I know you? I haven't taken anything from anyone, right?" What shocked him the most was that this person actually called him Right Qin. Up until now, he had only officially used the name Right Qin in the Sea of Time in the Second Punishment Realm's Doluo world. Even though his real name was translated into English, this person looked like a Wuxia person. There was no reason for him to use a foreign language. He must know something. That person's emotions gradually went out of control, and he completely fell into a state of rage. At this moment, the earth-paced exploder ability in Qin Guang's body suddenly shook, and his pupils immediately widened. It appeared. That familiar feeling was exactly the same as the one he felt in the morgue the day before yesterday. It was similar to the earth elemental ability of the Broken World Saint clan. It was actually on this person. At this moment, Qin Guang was shocked, but also felt that it was natural. Mr. Ing saw that Qin Guang's expression changed again, and thought that he finally remembered something. He sneered and said, "It seems that you were pretending to be crazy just now. I was almost fooled by you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have failed on the verge of success. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have lost a good situation overnight. Have you always wondered why only the one family appeared among the three big aristocratic families, and why the Chu family and Xing family were nowhere to be seen? Let me tell you now. The people from the Chu family and Xing family are already dead souls in my hands. I only needed one painting scroll from the one family to gather the three great skills, and I would be able to command the martial world. Give me another 10 years and I would be able to replace those old fools in Yenjing. If it wasn't for you." Qin Guang ignored him and asked doubtfully, "The Broken World Saint clan? You still haven't remembered who I am. Can't you just say it? Why do you have to make me guess?" "Old man Ouyang Tianxing." Qin Guang dragged the word out and then stopped abruptly. F***CK, you're that unlucky director of the Special Affairs Bureau? That's right, it's me. Now do you know why I hate you to the core? If it wasn't for you, how would those old fools in Yenjing dare to fall out with me?" It was useless to know his identity. Qin Guang was more puzzled about how this fellow obtained the ability of the Broken World Saint clan and why would he call out his great sorcerer's real name. All right. It's all my fault, all my fault. What now?" Ouyang Tianxing was about to get angry again when he saw Qin Guang's nonchalant expression. However, he suddenly laughed when he saw a trace of mockery in Qin Guang's eyes. "I nearly fell for your trick. You're purposely trying to infuriate me so that I will kill you, right? No wonder Long Ding Tian said that they were afraid that you would starve to death. I thought those two fools were using their authority to torture you. I didn't expect you to be so strong-willed." Qin Guang secretly rolled his eyes and couldn't be bothered to ridicule him. As the saying went, if the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. This nest of evil sects all had one thing in common. They were too good at divergent thinking. Qin Guang casually said, "I didn't expect you to see through me. I'm so angry." Ouyang Tianxing was exasperated. He waved his hand and a smear of earth element energy appeared out of nowhere. It turned into yellow sand that swept past Qin Guang's eyes and struck the sturdy steel wall of the dungeon. There was a muffled sound and a fist-sized dent appeared on the 2-centimeter thick steel wall. Qin Guang's eyes widened, and he was ecstatic in his heart. Although he didn't know how this fellow learned the Broken World Saint clan's ultimate technique, his pure earth element energy was obviously a great supplement for him. The Earth Sauce Exploder's core, which had become extremely weak after coming out of the punishment realm and had been growing extremely slowly, was like a sponge that was thrown into the sea. It was great to eat hot pot in the winter and watermelon in the summer. Ew. How could you? Qin Guang put on an act and pretended to be stunned. At the same time, he was thinking hard about how he could make this fellow indulge in the process of showing off and give him great supplements. Ouyang Tianxing was finally satisfied when he saw that he had subdued him. Not bad, right, Qin? You didn't expect this, did you? Did you really think the Broken World Saint clan was destroyed? Did you think no one in this world knew your identity as an outsider? No, you're wrong. Ridiculously wrong. I, Ouyang Tianxing, inherited the undying will of the Broken World Saint clan. I must kill you. Thanks to you, I was able to obtain the Holy Clan's imprint. It was a blessing in disguise. I'm no longer immortal. I don't just want power. I want to be the ruler of this world. I want eternal life. I will make the broken world Saint Clan's glory shine on every inch of this universe. I used to think of you as my greatest enemy, but you've disappointed me. Why did your power disappear after coming out of that world? The once arrogant elemental controller, right Qin, has such a day come for you? After I kill one, I'll kill you. I'll gather the 3 great techniques and the power of the broken world Saint Clan. In time, no one or weapon in this world will be able to threaten me, Ouyang Qianxing, the last leader of the broken world Saint Clan. Ouyang Qianxing laughed proudly. His entire body exploded from where he stood and turned into yellow sand that flew away. Qin Guang was very unwilling. He wanted to reach out and grab a handful of sand. Unfortunately, his hands were tied tightly. His bones had not recovered yet, so he could not break free from the strong hemp rope. Qin Guang was very angry. It was possible that when he was slaughtering the broken world Saint Clan, this fellow was hiding in the punishment realm. He did not know how he was so lucky. After he came out, he did not lose his memory and even obtained the inheritance of the broken world Saint Clan that he had created. Also, he was not one of the targets of his mission. Otherwise, he would have been crushed to death like an ant. I've really seen a ghost. How did you get so into character? The broken world Saint Clan was created by the heavenly Holy Grail, and so was Right Qin. But what the hell was an elemental controller? The old man was the earth-paste exploder, okay? Fine, I feel like the elemental controller is more imposing. In short, this idiot completely believed what happened in the punishment realm. He did not need to lie to himself. His beliefs were stronger than Xan Qin, Wu Miaoan, and Lu Fei, who had also retained their memories. In the past, this technique of transforming into yellow sand and teleporting through the air was like child's play to him. But now, the core of the exploder was still in its embryonic form. This concubine? Oh no, this old man couldn't do it. Forget it. At least he left some earth elemental power when he turned into yellow sand. Let me take another breath to calm down. Less than 20 seconds later, the yellow sand that Ouyang Qianxing had turned into returned. Qin Guang widened his eyes. What was this idiot trying to do? Under his dumbfounded gaze, the yellow sand did not say anything. He leaped to the ground, rolled up his black robe and ran. Damn it, this idiot forgot to take his clothes. Qin Guang looked at the lonely red briefs on the ground and shouted, I say, Ouyang Qianxing, your underwear is still on the ground. The yellow sand returned for the second time. He rolled up his underwear and ran. Although Qin Guang could not see his expression, he could imagine how embarrassed he was. Forget it. Anyway, it was not bad to take a few more breaths. It felt like his bones were recovering faster. Chapter 896. Although Ouyang Qianxing was so confident that he was about to explode on the spot, it was clear that his abilities were not as terrifying as imagined. Qin Guang could also see that although he could transform his body into yellow sand, the disparity between him and the 3 sacred race elders he had dealt with in the punishment realm couldn't be calculated. After he came out, he only retained a little bit of the strength of the bean paste explosion. It was already ridiculous that this fellow was stronger than him. There had to be a limit. Otherwise, he would not be so afraid of Wenwen now. It seemed like the mutation that happened to Wenwen had caused her cultivation to improve. If not for his existence, Wenwen would probably be the strongest inner force martial artist in history. Just like what Azure had said, although the inner force of humans could not break through the limits of the plane, it was still a rather exquisite cultivation technique. Ouyang Qianxing was a martial artist and was already very strong. He also obtained the ability of the world-shattering holy tribe. He was not stupid and should understand the logic behind it. Although he did not know what techniques the other 2 unlucky families, the Chu and Xing families, had, it should not be worse than the painting scroll. The 3 great techniques and the ability of the world-shattering holy tribe were quite powerful. Qin Guang knew why he purposely came to show off in front of him. Since he really believed that the world-shattering holy tribe really existed, he also thought that he was the great magister Right Qin of the Dolua world. He had also seen him in his prime as the earth-paste explosion in the Dolua world. He must be afraid that he was pretending to be weak and that he was still the invincible great magister. Hence, he came to see the situation. Perhaps he had prepared 2 plans. One of them was to confirm whether he had lost all his abilities. If he was sure, he would continue to use him as bait and carry out his plan to kill Wenwen. His other plan was probably to confirm that he was pretending to be weak and that he still had his abilities. Then he would immediately kowtow and beg him to give him a chance and spare his life. Once I turn on my old and sophisticated mode, thinking about these problems is too obvious. It's no fun at all. Lying on the metal bed, Qin Guang's stomach was bloated as he sensed the injuries on his bones swiftly recovering. At the same time he was bored to death. At this point, it was useless for him to be anxious, and he could only wait for Liuli's master plan. Speaking of which, the old men in Yanjin were quite a failure. They picked someone from all over the place to set up the Special Affairs Bureau. Not only did they fail to achieve their goal of restraining inner force martial artists, but they also created a mentally retarded villain with malicious intentions. To be honest, if he hadn't gotten himself involved, he might have been able to do what he had said just now bit by bit. With his thorough preparation and astonishing strength, he might really be able to take advantage of the old master's trust in him to slowly replace the crown prince with a leopard cat, slowly replacing the people who held the scepter's authority with his own people. He should not have made the mistake of attacking the old man's family. In the past, Qin Guang had never understood why. At that time he was just a commoner, unable to reach the heavens or land. There was nothing worth noticing about him. Later he understood that it was because of Wenwen. But he couldn't blame her. The two of them met by chance and they became best friends without any conflict of interest. Neither of them hoped to get anything from the other. It was just because the tortoise liked the mung bean, and they found each other pleasing to the eye. The purer the relationship, the longer it lasted. The two of them were able to get along with each other from the time they met in their first year of university. It was a pity that their simple friendship at that time was still targeted by others. Ouyang Tianxing did not do much to Qin Guang's family, and there were no irreparable casualties. To him, he might have just casually arranged for two people to cause a small case of food poisoning in Qin Guang's hot pot restaurant. But from then on, Qin Guang's life changed. The wealthy Qin family had to take on responsibilities that they shouldn't have because of the Special Affairs Bureau's interference. Perhaps Ouyang Tianxing had already seen through Qin Guang's character when he made his move. He knew that Qin Guang was someone who would suffer for his pride. He also knew that Wenwen would be troubled by Qin Guang's matter, but she would not help him directly because of her pride. After that, Wenwen might have spent most of her energy on helping Qin Guang find out more about the hot pot poisoning incident. Perhaps Ouyang Tianxing had spent a lot of energy to deal with the Chu family and the Xing family of the three aristocratic families, plotting and completing his plans bit by bit. His attack on the Qin family's hot pot restaurant in Lilai County might have been one of his many schemes to divert the attention of the powerful Wen family. To Ouyang Tianxing, such an insignificant scheme was worse than choking on a mouthful of soup. But just like how one day in heaven was 1 year on earth, when a deity knocked over a wine cup, there would be heavy rain and floods for 3 years in the mortal world. Ouyang Tianxing's casual action had completely destroyed the Qin family and Qin Guang's life. Qin Guang used a whole year to recover his family, and that was with the help of the heavenly Holy Grail. If he was just an ordinary person without Lu Li's help, if he lived stubbornly and refused to accept help from others, perhaps he would have to wait for many years. Perhaps he would have to wait for many more years. Lin Jingwei really couldn't bear to see him in such dire straits. The one family might be like the other two aristocratic families, quietly falling into Ouyang Tianxing's hands. At that time, Qin Guang and his family could be reborn. Perhaps his mother would have passed away because she could not afford to treat her illness by then. A few million was a small matter to the upper class, where money made money. But to ordinary people, it was a goal that could only be achieved after a lifetime of hard work. When Qin Guang thought of that kind of life, he felt a chill down his spine. So how could he not hate? What he hated more was Ouyang Tianxing's cruelty and cold-bloodedness. At that time he did not want to completely anger Wenwen, so his family was only touched lightly by him. But later, when he felt that it was necessary, he slaughtered 25 families without hesitation. But now Ouyang Tianxing might be regretting it. Qin Guang knew that he must have become a special existence in Ouyang Tianxing's heart. Perhaps he was even more special than Wenwen. After all, I'm the great sorcerer Right Qin from another world. Sai, once this human spirit mode is activated, there's really no stopping. Luli, hurry up, I'm getting a little impatient. In the camp by Ninghai Lake, after most people left voluntarily or unwillingly, only less than 20 people, including Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan, stayed. The two little girls sat in front of the grave that had just been covered with soil. They looked at each other speechlessly, their eyes red and their throats choked. The two of them did not expect that their teacher, who was almost omnipotent in their hearts, would leave just like that. The two of them lost their parents when they were young and grew up with their teacher. Their relationship was like that of a teacher or a mother. With Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming's original age and skills, they would not live to 100 years old, but at least have a few decades to live. But suddenly the sky above Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan's heads collapsed. The two of them had done a good job to be able to endure the pain and resolutely lead the team to stay. Taoist Vasp Kalo sat beside the two of them and said, "Deputy Bureau Chiefs, you don't have to be too sad. For us martial artists, although we don't roam the Jianghu all year round like in the past, freely repaying gratitude and avenging enmity, but in fact, we still have to put our heads on our waists, licking the blood of our swords. It can't be said that our days are precarious, but if we often walk by the river, it's inevitable that our shoes will get wet. Although sect leader Xian and sect leader Wu are women, they are quite heroic and have the demeanor of a woman." In the end, they did not ruin their reputation as Jianghu women. Old Man Panda also sat down. "Vasp Kalo and Oxnose are right. I still remember many years ago when your teacher was about the same age as you are now. Coincidentally, the country had just been established, and the major sects in Jianghu were fighting for power and profit. At that time, although the master of the two bureau chiefs came from a small family, he was upright in his conduct, upheld justice, and was not afraid of the strong. He punished some evildoers who disregarded human life and left a good name in Jianghu. He even killed his way from a bone strength master to a skin strength master. At that time, I also met sect leader Xian and sect leader Wu a few times. In the blink of an eye, dozens of years have passed. Time really flies. Speaking of which, the two of you only left 2 years earlier than me and Oxnose." Taoist Vasp Kalo glared at Panda. "Your panda face is Oxnose, your whole family is Oxnose. But don't worry, Deputy Bureau Chiefs. Since Master Pan and I have decided to stay, we have made up our minds. If it really gets to the point of no return, the two of us will find a way to save your lives. Thousand Despair Sect and Thousand Flowers Valley are different. Large sects like us can't afford to suffer anymore." Xian Qin and Wu Miaoan understood, but they did not know what to say. Just as the two seniors had said, with the death of their teacher as the eldest disciple of the sect, the burden of taking care of the hundreds of people in the huge sect fell on their shoulders. Their teacher had planned and worked hard when he was alive, and there was only one goal: to strengthen the sect. Now that the two of them were in danger, if they died here they would be considered disloyal, unfilial, and unjust. But when the two of them thought of Qin Guang who had been kidnapped, they became even more worried. Although he was invincible in the soul world, his magic could only conjure up a sesame-sized ball. Although he was a genius in cultivating inner force, no matter how talented he was, he needed time to grow. He was only at the beginner level of muscle force. If he fell into the hands of those people, wouldn't he be at their mercy? This was really worrying until his hair turned white. At this moment, a cold voice came from behind them. "This is the tomb of sect leader Xian of Thousand Despair Sect and sect leader Wu of Thousand Flowers Valley, right?" Everyone turned around and saw a lady in white standing proudly in front of them. She was looking at them with a calm gaze. Strangely, although she was standing there without moving, everyone present, including experts like Taoist Vasp Kalo, felt that her figure seemed to be moving left and right, and they could not see her clearly. Apart from that, the autumn wind that was blowing non-stop by the lake seemed to freeze when it reached her. Her clothes were hanging straight down, and it was as if time had stopped around her. She was not dressed like a fairy, and the long pitch-black saber hanging on her back, which was almost as tall as she was, showed that she was not a soft-hearted person. But at this moment, everyone in front of the tombstone could not help but feel that this lady did not belong to this world. She was like a fairy. When one was here, she had become so strong. Chapter 897. One tried hard to make her expression look softer. However, the anxiety and anger in her heart made this usually simple task extremely difficult. But when she saw the two new graves and the two red-eyed girls in front of the tombstones, the unhappiness in her heart finally dissipated a little, but not much. She had originally planned to scold them harshly. Why did they accompany Qin Guang in his madness? Why did they come here? Why did they allow Qin Guang to be kidnapped under the eyes of so many people? She really wanted to scold these people for being trash and idiots. But now she couldn't scold them. In fact, she was very clear that if she really had to find someone to scold, it would definitely be that guy, Qin Guang. I've already said it before. Since everything started with me and I have the ability to do so, of course I should be the one to end everything with my own hands, and I'll include you as well. I know the anger in your heart, and I also understand your feelings of wanting to do something, but this is not necessary. Now it's great, you overestimated yourself and came here and then you were captured alive. What should I do? Clearly, with my strength it was something that could be easily done, but suddenly the difficulty has increased infinitely. Perhaps if I only rely on my own strength to find their headquarters, it will not be done in a day or two, and perhaps I can no longer obtain the antidote before my father dies of the poison, but it is still better than being held hostage by the other party. Can I not care about your life and death? No. But if the other party uses your life to threaten me, forcing me to either cripple my own martial arts or watch you die, what should I do? With things turning out like this, one couldn't help but be angry. But in the end, things had come to this, and what was done could not be undone. One knew that blaming anyone would not change the truth, not to mention that the two Jianghu seniors had paid the price with their lives. She could not continue to pour salt on the hearts of the two poor girls that were riddled with holes, nor could she blame the Jianghu seniors who sacrificed their lives to protect Qin Guang. One suddenly moved. The others did not see how she moved, but she suddenly appeared in front of the grave as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. She quickly bowed and said in a clear voice, "Junior One represents Qin Guang to bow to the two seniors." The strange thing was she was obviously talking to the tombstone, but Taoist Song Song and Xan Qin felt she was talking to them. In Jianghu, it was hard to find a Wenzhong realm martial artist in 100 years. For example, Taoist Vasp Kalo's plain cloth sect. In these few hundred years, there were only 3 pure heart realm strong practitioners who surpassed the skin strength. No one present could understand Wenwen's realm. She seemed to be talking casually, but her voice had an inexplicable sense of insight into people's hearts. Taoist Vasp Kalo opened his mouth wide, unable to close it for a long time. He could not hide his shock. At the individual military drill, he had seen Wenwen brandishing the butcher's knife against the killers of Poison Sect and Dark Sect. At that time he was already shocked by her extremely powerful skills. He did not expect that in such a short period of time, she actually improved a few steps. Some people were right, this demoness was indeed a demoness. How did she train? This was completely unreasonable. According to the sect's ancient records, plain cloth sect's almost invincible founder may not be her opponent? But the person with the most complicated feelings right now was still Xan Qin. She used to be secretly jealous of Qin Guang's special care for Wenwen, even subconsciously compared her in secret, and sometimes said some strange things. However, it was rare for her to be so close to this peerless genius who was known as the once-in-a-hundred-years genius in Jianghu. She could feel the aura of a powerful expert that she seemed to have returned to her natural state but was actually constantly exuding. Even the inner strength in her dantian was affected by her and began to circulate on its own at a much faster speed than usual. Xan Qin really did not want to admit it, but she could not help but feel a little ashamed of her own inferiority. Just like Qin Guang, the great sorcerer who could destroy the world in his previous life, and the invincible genius who sat on the sacred body of elements in this life, these two were a match made in heaven, so perfect that it made people jealous. No wonder he was always thinking about Wenwen. If I was a man, I would also be unable to extricate myself from falling in love with such a strange woman, right? Sister Xan Qin, don't worry too much, I will save that guy. She seemed to be talking. Was she talking to me? Sweetheart, sect leader Wen is talking to you. Wu Miaowan, who was beside her, calmed down faster and poked Xan Qin's waist. Xan Qin suddenly came back to her senses. Oh. All right. Wenwen forced a smile. This guy is a little troublesome, but as long as I don't die, he won't have to worry about his life. I don't know where the people from Six Sword Sect got the courage to mix with the evil sects, but it doesn't matter. Demon Sovereign Jiao and Evil Monarch, you are full of tricks. They think that they have set up a dragon's pool and tiger's den for me, but I will let them understand that in the face of absolute power, all tricks are futile. Taoist Vasp Kalo and Panda said in unison, that's right. Sect leader Wen's martial arts are unparalleled, unprecedented. Wenwen continued, Sai, it's also Qin Guang, that idiot who only knows how to be hot-headed and cause trouble for me. Otherwise, this matter wouldn't have been so troublesome. You can't blame it all on Qin Guang, it's all my fault. If I had discovered that Long Dingtian was up to no good, Chief Chen wouldn't have fallen for it. Unexpectedly, Xan Qin interrupted Wenwen's words. Wenwen turned around and looked at her with a complicated smile on her face. Xan Qin was looking at Wenwen, and Wenwen was also looking at Xan Qin. Wenwen already knew about the existence of Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan. When she had nothing better to do, she was also interested in the things that happened around Qin Guang. She already knew that Qin Guang had 2 dedicated deputy chiefs by his side. Perhaps it was because she loved the house and its crow, but people who didn't understand Qin Guang didn't think that there was anything good about him. But after getting close to him, Wenwen knew that he had an inexplicable and irresistible lethality towards girls. After coming here she took a few more looks and purposely probed. Xan Qin, this little girl, had indeed subconsciously started to protect Qin Guang. When she called her little sister, she agreed without any qualms. There was indeed a reason behind it. Being stared at by Wenwen, Xan Qin's face turned red. She didn't know what she was embarrassed about. She called me little sister, maybe she found out something? So I forget it. In any case, Qin Guang was quite a playboy. On the other side, Wenwen confirmed her suspicions but didn't ask further. Instead she changed the topic. Everyone, I'll make it short. If Qin Guang wasn't captured, this matter might be simpler. The people from Poison Sect and Dark Sect invited me to a duel at the top of a mountain about 70 miles west of here. On the way here just now, I saw more than 10 experts at the peak of Skin Force. They are all highly respected and skilled seniors in Jianghu. I'm thinking that since the situation has changed, I might need everyone's help. Taoist Vasp Kalo didn't put on the airs of a senior expert in front of Wenwen. He lowered his head and bowed. Since this humble Taoist has stayed here to save Chief Qin, since sect leader Wen has invited me, this humble Taoist is duty-bound. Panda also said in a clear voice, of course. Wenwen nodded in satisfaction. Qin Guang's subordinates in Guangding General Headquarters were really loyal. However, it could also be that these seniors in Jianghu could see the situation clearly. They knew that technology was advancing day by day, and that martial arts alone could no longer dominate the world. Especially after China's military held individual military exercises, the people in Jianghu who were there were all shocked by the highly advanced individual weapons. This was the trend of history that couldn't be stopped or defied. Wenwen also didn't understand why the two evil sects, Six Sword Sect and Long Ding Tian, had the guts to go against the trend of history in such a situation. She vaguely knew that there was an expert behind this, but she didn't know who it was. Wenwen also didn't think that the so-called expert could pose any threat to her. When Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan saw this, although they felt that something was wrong, they still became spirited. Xan Qin said in a clear voice, I'll go too. Wu Miaoan ran back into the tent and carried her medicine box. Seniors, although my skills aren't good, my medical skills have been passed down by my master. Perhaps I can help everyone. Unexpectedly, Wenwen suddenly withdrew the smile on her face and said in a slightly cold tone, the two of you have a good idea, but I think we should forget about this matter. Xan Qin didn't understand. Why? Wu Miaoan clenched the strap of her medicine box. She also didn't understand. Everything was fine just now. Why did sect leader Wen suddenly change her attitude? All the seniors here are experts in skin strength. The two of you are only in bone strength. How can you be of any help? When it comes to a life and death battle, the evil sects have the advantage in numbers. Do you think we'll have to split people to cover you? According to my original plan, I should go alone. Now that I have no choice, I need the help of all the seniors. As for the two of you, scram as far as you can. Don't be a burden. Unlike the others who maintained respect for Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan, the two deputy directors, Wenwen had the confidence to speak as the world's #1 expert. When Taoist Song Song and the others saw this, they thought that this was a woman's world and it wasn't appropriate to interrupt. About 10 minutes later, everyone was ready to set off. Wenwen walked at the front with the black saber on her back. Behind her were dozens of experts from various sections. Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan pursed their lips and followed behind the crowd unwillingly. After walking for a few miles, Wenwen finally couldn't take it anymore. She turned around and stepped on the void, landing in front of Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan as if she was flying. With a clang, she unsheathed the black saber and slashed it on the ground. Dust flew everywhere. A 10 feet long and a meter deep ravine appeared in front of Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan. Both of you, I'll say this first. This ravine is the boundary. If the two of you dare to cross it again, don't blame me for being impolite. Xan Qin panicked. How can you do this? Wu Miaoan also bit her lip hard. Too much, too much. Wenwen sheathed her saber. Without another word, she turned around and left. That, sect leader Wen, there's something I don't know if it's appropriate to say. Taoist Song Song couldn't stand it anymore. He waited until they were far away before he cautiously spoke. Wenwen, however, kept her sharp edge and cupped her hands at Taoist Song Song. Senior Song Song, I didn't mean to make things difficult for the two of them. Their master is already dead and they really can't afford to suffer anymore. This time the other party has hostages. I actually don't have the confidence to win. I'm not afraid to say it out loud. I'm also prepared to die. Wenwen didn't say it clearly. If her death could really be exchanged for Qin Guang and her father's antidote, she could accept it. Chapter 898. At this moment, Qin Guang, who was taken as a hostage, was still lying on the iron bed in the dungeon. However, the injuries on his bones had already healed and he was just lying there on purpose. The iron door of the dungeon creaked open, and a delicate-looking young man appeared in the dungeon. He was holding a recording pen in his hand, and there were two people standing behind him. Qin Guang recognized these two people. One of them was the deputy leader of Dark Clan, Ghost Shadow, who had forced Xan Yuan and Wu Qingming to their deaths. The other person seemed to be called Jiu He. Qin Guang's heart skipped a beat when he saw this scene. Wenwen is here. They want me to say something to make Wenwen submit. Jiu Li let him read the script. Ghost Shadow said with his unique hoarse voice, laughing strangely. That delicate-looking young man pulled his collar and came forward excitedly. He first played the recording pen beside Qin Guang's head, then took out a piece of paper and waved it in front of Qin Guang. Read it. Qin Guang looked up and rolled his eyes. This script was worth 800 yuan a month? To my dearest Wenwen, a day without seeing you feels like 3 years. I'm now a guest in the mountains and I've been eating and drinking well. I miss you very much and I wonder if you've gotten thinner or fatter. What the heck is this? The seniors of Poison Clan and Dark Clan are kind people, and I also approve of their entrepreneurial ideas. Entrepreneurial ideas. Damn it. Can you be more professional? Anyway, I really don't want to die, save me. Your change of topic is too stiff. Just a second ago you were eating and drinking well and the next second you don't want to die. Qin Guang turned his head silently. Brother, you were taught Chinese by a PE teacher in primary school, right? What the hell are you writing? Alright, I know what you want me to record. Isn't it just to scream for help so that Wenwen can't fight back and can only obediently stretch out her neck to be killed? Dream on. Get lost. With that, Qin Guang turned his face away, too lazy to pay any more attention to this idiot. Unexpectedly, this person called Jiu Li was not angry after being scolded. Instead, she put away the recording pen with a smile. Is that okay? Jiu He asked from the side. Jiu Li nodded. It's almost done. I've already recorded Qin Guang's voice. I'll go back and synthesize it. It should be enough to pass off as genuine. Qin Guang's eyes widened as he suddenly realized that he had been tricked. Jiu Li was very proud. Chief Qin, you didn't expect this, right? Ever since I was young, I've liked doing these things. Currently, apart from practicing martial arts, I'm just hanging around on Bilibili. I'm sorry, I'm one of the uploaders of Bilibili's Wang Situ rap. At that moment, Qin Guang was dumbfounded. What the F*** CK? Miscalculation. Who would have thought that there would be a weirdo like Bilibili's uploader among the evil martial artists? When they left triumphantly, Qin Guang immediately became anxious. Although he didn't know how this guy planned to synthesize his voice, seeing how confident he was, he definitely had something up his sleeve. Qin Guang had seen a lot of Wang Situ's ghostly works on Bilibili, so he knew how powerful they were. Lord Luli, I still need to save you. Hurry and save me. Shut up. It'll be tomorrow morning at the soonest. Good luck. Unexpectedly, Lioli actually replied this time, and her voice revealed a trace of exhaustion. Can't it be faster? A man who was never content was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. He might have been able to remain calm when he knew nothing, but now that he knew the exact time, he naturally wanted more. This was the experience that Qin Guang had come to after dealing with Lu Li for so long. Lord Lu Li's potential was like a chasm. There would always be a gap. Do you want to experience the incomplete beauty of the incomplete version of the world in a cup that can't be resurrected? If you're not careful, you'll also lose your own beauty. That's right, tonight's night is so beautiful that I'll forget to go home. Sorry, it's daytime outside. Oh. Up until now, Qin Guang couldn't be bothered to count how many times he had died in the world in a cup. In the past, he had died n times just to learn a foreign language, and he had exploded countless times just to learn acting, not to mention that he was learning inner force for close quarters combat this time. If he went in without the ability to resurrect himself, wouldn't that be tantamount to throwing his life away? Although he had always been good at causing trouble, courting death didn't mean that he was going to die. Courting death was good, but he couldn't be greedy and had to be measured. On the other side, although Wenwen had forced Xan Qin and Wu Miaoan away, the two deputy directors were not easy to deal with. They followed far behind, sneaking around like thieves. This woman is so annoying. She thinks she can climb all over us sisters just because she's so capable. So infuriating. Wu Miaoan grumbled angrily as she glared at the figure in the distance in front of her. Seeing that Xen Qin ignored her, she slammed her palm on the tree next to her. Too much, too much. Xen Qin saw that Wu Miaoan was not done and said helplessly, she's just trying to save people. Our skills are indeed far from theirs. I understand that, but I just don't feel comfortable. Can't we just talk nicely? Xen Qin didn't speak up for Wenwen anymore. It was obvious that she thought the same way. Wenwen didn't turn around, but she was well aware of the two little tails behind her. Sai, Senior Vasp Kalo, why don't we trouble you to invite those two to come along with us? Taoist Master Vasp Kalo felt relieved and quickly turned around to ask for help. When everyone gathered again, Wenwen took the initiative to explain, I'm sorry, the two of you. I originally thought that this trip would be extremely dangerous. Apart from me, the other seniors are all at skin force and above. If we were to be defeated and run, they would have a higher chance of escaping. The two of you, on the other hand, would almost certainly die. What I did earlier was to make the two of you back off. However, since the two of you are so determined, I won't force you to be a good person. Instead of letting the two of you follow behind, why don't you come with us? It'll be safer. Although her explanation was very stiff, Xen Qin and Wu Miaoan felt much better when they heard it. Sect leader Wen Qingguang's matter is both our matter and yours. Moreover, we have a blood feud with our sect. We can't just stand by and watch. Wu Miaoan nodded. That's right. Sect leader Wen, don't worry. The two of us promise not to drag you down. Wenwen reluctantly agreed. She raised her head to look at the gradually setting sun and estimated the time in her mind. If they rushed like this, they would probably arrive at the appointed location the next morning. If she followed her previous plan, it would be impossible for her to accept the other party's challenge. The other party was extremely crafty and cunning. Only the heavens knew what kind of trap they would lay in advance. Originally, the enemy was in the dark while she was in the dark. She was alone. If she didn't consider the fact that her father's poison was acting up, she should have had the advantage. But now the other party had laid out an inescapable net. She knew it was a trap, but she had no choice but to fall into it. No one knew what was waiting for her on the other side. Wenwen couldn't think of a way to save him if the other party used Qingguang's life as a hostage. She didn't have the slightest bit of confidence. There was an indescribable bitterness in her heart. At this moment, a bullet whizzed over from the horizon. It didn't land on anyone but hit right under Wenwen's feet. The others jumped in fright and instinctively jumped back. Wenwen looked down and heard Qingguang's voice coming from the bullet. Help. Help me. They want to kill me. I don't want to die. Oh. Qingguang's mournful scream resounded in the valley. It made people sad and shed tears. Everyone looked at each other. Although we know that Chief Qin is a hostage right now, isn't your scream a little too miserable? Boss, you're so spineless. How can we bear it? No. This can't be what he said. Wenwen and Xan Qin said in unison. The two women looked at each other. Wenwen smiled knowingly, while Xan Qin turned her face away guiltily. Obviously, the two of them knew Qingguang's character very well. Although he was usually not a proper person, he was more principled than the average person when it came to this kind of big right and wrong. Even if he really wanted to ask for help and beg for mercy, it wouldn't be in such a tone of fear. Instead, it would be with some playfulness. That guy was a coquettish B***tch who had no moral integrity and vulgarity carved into his bones. He would never really say something like that. This recording must have been faked. But it was useless to realize this. Qingguang was still a hostage in the hands of the other party. Time flew. Qingguang was lying on the iron bed. It was not convenient for him to move, and he had nothing to do. To him, this kind of confinement was the greatest torture. Perhaps it was even worse than the soldiers in the army who were punished. At least those people could still move a little. Fortunately, he had dealt with the World in Cup more than once or twice. Although he was in a state of mental blockade in the World in Cup, he had eaten a lot of pork and gradually learned to snort like a pig. He didn't fall into a state of frenzy like the other people who were locked up. Instead, he simply closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. In a daze, Qingguang felt that the iron bed under him was swaying as if someone was moving it. Qingguang slowly opened his eyes and gradually regained consciousness. The morning breeze blew on his face and the ankles under his trousers. It was chilly. His entire body was being moved up and down by the iron bed. It was like a young lady sitting in a bridal sedan. The difference was that a young lady was sitting in a bridal sedan waiting to be married, but Qingguang was lying on the iron bed like a stretcher, waiting to be taken as a hostage. Qingguang looked into the distance. The sun was like a mischievous child poking its head out to look at him. The sky was about to brighten. Yo, Bureau Chief Chen is awake? Did you have a good sleep? Long Dingtian was walking beside Qin Guang with his arms crossed. He had a face full of ridicule. Where are we going? Qin Guang asked despite knowing the answer. We are going to your and sect Master Wen's burial ground. Long Dingtian's tone was full of confidence and pride. Qin Guang didn't bother about him and continued to look at the other people. There were about 70 people. Among them were Demon Sovereign Jiao and Evil Monarch Yu, who he had seen before. There were also people like Zhuge Ling from the Six Sword sect. There were also some people that Qin Guang didn't have any impression of. That Mr. Ing had turned out in full force. Over 70 Pai Jin experts. Perhaps only the two young men who were carrying the iron bed weren't Pai Jin experts. He didn't see that Mr. Ing and he didn't know where he was. Chapter 899. How is it? Is our Shadow Alliance's strength worthy of Chief Chen's discerning eyes? Long Dingtian sized up Qin Guang's expression. When he saw that Qin Guang was stunned, he asked with interest. It's all right. It's good that everyone is here. Qin Guang used a calm tone to reply indifferently, but he was counting the time in his heart. Lord Luli, it's already morning. Damn it, I'm panicking now. When everyone arrived, the sun had yet to rise halfway. The pitiful old Master Guang was also thrown miserably to the side of the cliff like a piece of wind-blown cured meat. Then he saw the 70-odd people actually move in a flash. In the blink of an eye, they burrowed into the holes that had been dug at some point in time. Immediately after, dozens of pitch-black gun muzzles silently emerged from the cliff. Qin Guang was astonished. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen such shameless people. All of you are reputable experts in the pugilistic world, but you're actually hiding in a hole and shooting. This isn't appropriate, right? Pharmacy by Lian. As expected of the former chief Ouyang Tianxing, he never took the normal path. Forget it, they should be thankful that they didn't bring out a bigger weapon. If it was just these guns, they shouldn't be able to take Wen's life. Qin Guang say it. When Sect Mistress Wen arrives, I will place my hand on your neck and request her to cripple her own martial arts. Furthermore, I will swear to the heavens that as long as she complies with my request, I will not only hand over her father's antidote, but I will also immediately release you. What choice do you think she will make? Just as Qin Guang was cursing in his heart, Ouyang Tianxing's voice appeared beside him again. He was different from the last time they met. This time he had wrapped himself up tightly. He probably didn't want anyone to see his monster-like face. Of course she won't agree. Don't treat her as a fool. If a despicable person like you doesn't go back on your words, it would be a waste of all the melodramatic dramas that I brought her to watch. You said I'm a despicable person? How much better are you? If it weren't for me, or if I were to disappear without a trace, you'd be the same as me in less than 10 years after you've stabilized your position in the General Bureau of Broken Light Order. Of course not. My life pursuit is much more meaningful than yours. Qin Guang didn't finish his sentence. You're just a pitiful person who lives in my fantasy. Really? Ouyang Tianxing smiled nonchalantly. One could see him shrugging through the cloak. Forget it. I won't provoke you anymore. It's meaningless. You can rest assured that I will give Wen a fair chance to fight me. I almost believed it. No, I'm serious. At least before yesterday I still had some fear in my heart. But haven't you noticed that compared to yesterday, heaven and earth are a little different? Ouyang Tianxing turned around. His deep gaze seemed to pierce through the cloak and peer into Qin Guang's heart. With that reminder, Qin Guang frowned and turned to look at the sky. At the same time, he secretly activated his earth explosion ability. After a while, Qin Guang became more and more surprised. Ouyang Tianxing was right. The power of the Holy Grail, which was everywhere between heaven and earth, became even thicker. When the punishment realm first appeared, Qin Guang sensed that the entire world and even the entire universe was enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. It turned the real world into the world in the Holy Grail. But after he completed the mission, the power of the Holy Grail retreated. He heard Azure say that after the real world and the world in the Holy Grail, which was later known as the real world, completely merged, the two worlds had an inseparable connection. The power of the Holy Grail could no longer be completely separated. It was just so thin that he, the owner of the Holy Grail, could not sense it. After that, the punishment realm appeared for the second time. The real world and the real world merged completely. The entire Earth and even the entire universe was completely merged and changed. Lu Fei's father, who was not in Utopia, had his memory tampered with easily. A mirror image of Utopia was created, and the people in Utopia were pulled into the punishment realm in the Holy Grail. After the second punishment realm was completed, although the real world was restored, Qin Guang had a vague feeling that something was wrong. Today he finally understood. The two consecutive punishment realms allowed the real world to merge with the real world twice. The degree of merging was deeper each time, and the connection between the two became closer. Especially after the second time, even though the power of the Holy Grail was still receding like the tide, it was like ants had dug out a hole in a dam. There was still the power of the Holy Grail leaking out from the real world. Now, the concentration of the power of the Holy Grail had finally crossed a certain threshold. It went from undetectable to detectable. Perhaps it was just a seemingly negligible difference between 10 to the minus 10 power and 10 to the minus 9 power, but it was fundamentally different. This meant that the power of the Holy Grail had exceeded the minimum detection limit. It was just like when humans detected something, if the instrument could not detect it, they would treat it as if it did not exist. When the instrument could detect it, the quantitative change would trigger a qualitative change, and it would become something from nothing. In fact, this change was happening every day. It was just that he did not notice it before. Of course, Ouyang Tianxing could not detect the power of the Holy Grail. However, just like when he was near Utopia, the more concentrated the power of the Holy Grail, the more concentrated the elemental power around Utopia. The change that Ouyang Tianxing sensed was definitely elemental power. Although the current concentration could not be compared to before, it was enough for Ouyang Tianxing, who also had a superpower and claimed to be the successor of the World Shatterer Holy Lord, to recover his superpower to a large extent. Right, Qin, now you should believe that I will fight 1-1 head-on, right? Although I don't know what happened, the Doluo world and our world seem to be connected. The elemental power is constantly surging over. I'm afraid that it won't be long before the elemental power in both worlds becomes the same. When that time comes, the mark that the Holy Clan left in my body will allow me to quickly recover to the strength of a top-tier warrior. As for now, it's time for me to use facts to tell everyone that I, Ouyang Tianxing, am not just a wise man who only knows how to scheme. I have unprecedented strength. The scene of me defeating 1-1 today will be recorded, and I will let everyone in the pugilistic world see it. I will also send a copy to those old fools in Beijing and have them wash their necks and wait. I will let them know that I, Ouyang Tianxing, am back. Of course, it's better to be safe than sorry. With you around, I am sure that I will win. Qin Guang, you are my trump card. Ouyang Tianxing's voice was filled with unconcealable confidence. Qin Guang didn't want to bother with this guy who was completely immersed in fanaticism. Forget it. Since that's what he planned to do, I don't have to worry about it. I was just worrying about how to pretend to be a corpse and pretend to be dead so that 1-1 wouldn't be held back by me. It was finally 8 in the morning. The sun was already halfway up. The morning sunlight shone on the ground and cast long shadows on the people who were walking over. Ouyang Tianxing stood on the peak of the mountain with his hands behind his back. He looked down at the people who were coming, as if he was a king waiting for his subjects to worship him. Under his instructions, the other evil sect martial artists who were hiding in the underground caves either tightened their grip on the guns in their hands or threw away the firearms that they looked down on like brooms on the ground. In their hands, they held on to the concealed weapons that they were good at. Why is Mr. Ng different from what we agreed on? The demoness of the One family is strong now. You should be hiding in here. We should act according to what we agreed on and give these people a show of strength, right? Demon Sovereign Jiao stepped on the sniper rifle. He didn't like this thing. If it wasn't for Mr. Ying's request, he would have preferred to fight 300 rounds with any random opponent. Evil Monarch, you played with the weapon in his hands with interest. The things of the modern people do have some tricks. If this bullet hits us at close range, even the two of us will be in trouble. You don't have to worry for Mr. Ng. He has his own methods. Demon Sovereign Jiao swallowed his saliva. To be honest, the current Mr. Ng is really different from the past. Am I hallucinating? He's so King domineering. Although the two of us are considered experts, I really don't dare to face the demoness of the One family like he did. Evil Monarch, you nodded. As he tried to aim the scope at 1-1, he snorted. I don't dare either. I don't even know what rock this little girl came from. Traveling monk's son, a monster, a natural monster. At this moment, even the two sect masters had the same thoughts, much less the others. 1-1 first glared at Evil Monarch, who was aiming at her from the wall, causing this evil sect master to feel a chill in his heart. Then he turned to look at Ouyang Tianxing on the mountain peak. This person must be the expert hiding behind the evil sects to guide them. He was rather surprised. He thought that he would continue hiding, or he would directly tie up Chen Guang somewhere and force him to submit. He never expected that he would dare to stand on the mountain peak like a true pugilistic world expert. One family sect master. Do you dare to fight with me? Ouyang Tianxing shouted. He lived like a thief for most of his life, carefully managing everything he had. Like an oil thief, he slowly nibbled away at the pugilistic world. Then people watched as he built a tall building and watched as his building collapsed. Then he fled like a stray dog. Then he watched as the one family which he saw as a turtle in a jar, suddenly produced a peerless genius. No one could understand Ouyang Tianxing's extremely bitter mental journey. Even when he said those words he couldn't believe it. Would I, Ouyang Tianxing, also have such a bright and upright day? After walking in the darkness for so long, he finally obtained unimaginable power. He could finally stand under the sunlight and feel so good? One flew up and unsheathed her blade. If you want to fight, I will fight for you. But where is the person? Where is the antidote? Ouyang Tianxing waved his hand, and Qin Guang's metal bed was placed vertically by the two young fellows. He opened his hand again and a small white jade bottle appeared in his palm. The person is here and the antidote is also here. But it depends on whether you have the life to take it. Wen landed on the ground and stood about 10 meters in front of Ouyang Tianxing. Her inner strength surged out from her body, and black mist surged out from the black blade. I thought you would use Qin Guang's life to threaten me. Ah. You're looking down on me? My hands are more than enough to kill you. Qin Guang, who was confident that he would win, rolled his eyes silently. This person's ability aside, the thickness of his skin was as thick as mine. Wen sneered, then turned to look at Qin Guang. She tried her best to control her emotions and asked, Are you all right? Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan shouted in unison, Qin Guang, how are you? Qin Guang grinned. Hey, I'm in peace now. Everything is fine. At that moment he shouted from the bottom of his heart. Thief. I'm coming. In the distance, where no one noticed, a seemingly ordinary glass cup suddenly burst out of the ground. Then, as if it had wings, it flew toward Qin Guang. Qin Guang's smile finally bloomed. Oh my God. Lady Lioli, you finally made it. Lioli's voice was tired and excited. I have good news for you. Please speak. I've succeeded in skipping levels again. What do you mean? The heavenly immortal realm's heavenly clear sky, how is it? What? I don't quite understand. If you want to cultivate inner strength, you have to at least reach the 4th level, the heavenly clear sky in a cup, but you've only reached the 2nd level, one-line sky. This empress spent a lot of effort, calculated meticulously, and coordinated with the Holy Grail, just like how you build Legos in this world. After carefully planning for a long time, this heavenly clear sky cup's heavenly immortal realm was finally built successfully. When the heavenly clear sky cup was activated, something happened. The fusion of the real world and your real world caused this heavenly clear sky to change, and it became the heavenly immortal cup's heavenly immortal realm at the same level as the transient sea. What you have to cultivate is an inner martial art that the 4th level can withstand. How is it? This empress is awesome, right? My sister, you're so strong. This is indeed a grand plan. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of being seen through, old Master Guang would have been moved to tears. No wonder Lioli couldn't get away for so long. No wonder it was so difficult to carry out her grand plan. When he leveled up from Spirit Sky to One-Line Sky, the illusion in his mind was that he had walked to the edge of the universe. It was obvious how difficult it was for this unlucky Holy Grail to level up. Now, in order for him to cultivate inner strength, she had actually forcefully skipped 2 levels, skipped the 3rd level, Cloud Elephant Sky, and reached Heavenly Clear Sky. The difficulty was unimaginable. I've always blamed you wrongly. Actually, you still love me. Qin Guang stared at Ouyang Tianxing's back fiercely. Bastard, just you wait. When I reach Heavenly Clear Sky, I'll come back and show you why the flowers are so red. On the other side, Wen and Ouyang Tianxing were already exchanging blows at lightning speed. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.